Took me a second. Hello, Tiffany. Hello, friends. There was already people waiting. That is awesome. I didn't have to have like dead space. So yes, thank you for joining me for a live. I know, totally not like the normal thing for me. I can't even remember the last time I did a live video. I think there's one saved on here from 3 years ago. So it's been a minute. So it's going to take us a few Fridays to kind of get in the swing of things, I think. But for those of you who went to Taryn's retreat last year that she did, wonderfully made handcrafting. I get it wrong every time. She's my bestie and I still get it wrong every time. But anyways, I kind of thought that this would be like that. Like for those of you, hey Marine, hey, oh, so many friendly faces that I'm recognizing names. Awesome. So for those of you who went to that retreat, I kind of want it to be like this. You got to see the real me, the behind the scenes, real casual, you know, and so that's kind of what I was hoping would happen with these lives. You're just getting a one-on-one session with me. If you have questions, if you want to see specific things, we can do that. And we might cover a lot. We might just cover, you know, one thing and just kind of camp out on it. So before I turn this around, so I have a list of your guys' suggestions of things that you wanted to see from over on Instagram. There were comments in my DMs. There was comments over on YouTube. So I try to compile those and weed out the repeats and things. So one of the questions was stamp storage. So this is spur of the moment, right off the gate. I did not plan on getting up from my seat and getting stamp storage, but I am going to go grab stamp storage. So you can see this is all stamps. So I'm going to answer that question right out the gate just because it's easy. Hey, Taryn, handcrafting. You missed it, Taryn. You'll have to watch the repeat. I can't ever remember whether it's handcrafting or handcrafted. Handcrafting. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to grab the stamp storage and then I will bring it over to the desk. I'll flip over the camera. We'll start with looking at that and then we'll dive into the crafty stuff. I don't know what's going to happen. So let me go grab stamps. So as you can see, I have all of my stamps in these baskets and then they are divided. I created dividers. The adhesive that I used was terrible, so I have lots that I need to go and fix. And so I've just sectioned off, it's probably backwards for you guys, I imagine, but I separated them by types. So like this particular one has some essential stamps, which are just some basics. No worries, you want to come clean? Okay, so I did say I was going to try to repeat comments. I did mark the little thing that says it will save the live chat to the replay. So if you come back and watch the replay, I'm hopeful that the chat will be accessible, but I'm not sure. I can't promise. So Taryn was saying that she had to do some cleaning. So I think she needs to come clean my house when she's done. So anyways, so dividers are by sections like people, animals, flowers, backgrounds, transportation. I think there's like architecture, and then I just decide what I want to put in those. There's no like formula other than the section, and I just look at it, and if it's a stamp that has multiple different things in there, hey Carol, then I just kind of go off of what I think is the stamp I'm going to reach for the most in that particular stamp set, and then it goes into that divider section. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to flip the camera over here, and then I'm going to turn you down so that you see my desk. For those of you who caught my Instagram stories real quick right before the live, I spent all morning researching how to utilize my, whatchamacallit, sorry, I'm going to get this loaded up on here too. Wow, so many comments already. Okay. I was trying to get it figured out to where you could see my face and the desk at the same time. I was picking Tiffany Solario's brain right before this, and I'm going to pick her brain a little bit more this weekend. She does beautiful lives on YouTube. You guys, they are like amazing what she does in her live sessions. They are going to be way more professional looking than what we're doing over here on my channel. So we're going to step up the game slowly but surely. So that's what I was working on this morning, was trying to get that set up. So I'm not there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and flip you around here and we will get started. Now you get to see double me getting into the desk here. This is the more familiar way to look at what I'm doing, right? And then let's see, hopefully this will work. Okay. All right. So now we're in the view that you guys are used to. For those of you who've caught my stories, caught YouTube videos this week, I am on the new iPhone. I did the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I went through and changed the settings, but I'm still trying to work those out. So if things are fuzzy, going in and out of focus, that's something that I will fix after this once I've discovered that those are problems. So anyways, stamp storage. Everything goes in these Y-weave baskets from Target. I know you can order very similar ones online on Amazon. Thank you, Tiffany. There's Tiffany. Tiffany Solario. Go follow her here on YouTube and Instagram. She is such a tremendous inspiration when it comes to mixed media. She is just next level. So a lot of the skills I've learned with like gel plate and alcohol inks and things like that came from Tiffany. So log out, go follow her, and then come back and join. So for stamps, everything gets swapped over to these sleeves, and I'm actually going to grab those real quick because I just had to order some and it was kind of a bummer. So I have been using these Linkyo brand sleeves. I looked it up in Amazon. It's been since 2018. I've been ordering the exact same ones. And then when I went to order them yesterday, because I only had one left, they don't, oh, don't log out. Thanks, Tiffany. They didn't carry these any longer. So I had to substitute. I'm going to switch and try the Avery L stamp pockets and kind of see if those are similar, but that is what I do for all of my stamps. And you guys know, I mentioned in my unboxings for By the Well for God, they do have these stamp pocket storages like this, these sleeves that you can buy as well. So that is an option. These are definitely better quality than these. But for the ones that I have in here, I've only probably thrown away 3 or 4 that have torn like on the edges. Sizing is, I just threw the package away from my desk, I think. They're 5.5 by 7.25, I think is what they are. I don't even know where the package landed. Sorry. Oh, here it is. 5 3/4 by 7.5. So I think the Avery L ones were slightly different sizing than these. And so, I mean, there's plenty of wiggle room in these, so I'm not worried about them being a little bit small. But they do have these in lots of different sizes, or they did. I'm hopeful that they'll come back. They had some smaller ones and some larger ones for the 6 by 8. As you can see here, these are the 6 by 8 ones. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So I then I have to trim off. Look, Mabel is here visiting. Already. Oh my gosh, you guys. I like deep cleaned my office hoping there would be no Mabel fur, and it didn't work. So I do have to trim off the bottom of these from By the Well for God, the stamp backer sheet, to make them fit. But then I just put the backer sheet and the stamp in there, and that's it. And then they are, I'm not sure where this one came out of, but then they just go in here, and that's how I do stamp storage. So hopefully that answers that question. And we'll get that one out of the way. Let me kind of catch up on comments really quick. I could have slowed down comments, but I didn't think that I was going to be that popular and needed to do that. But I'm having a hard time keeping up with the comments already. You guys, I always get kind of nervous about any social situations, and going live and doing those things makes me nervous. And I thought, you know, the whole point of this was to be more low-key, casual, because I'm not able to do formal process videos right now, just with the timing schedule that I have. I'm going to kind of adjust this. But then I realized not having everything pre-planned is actually causing me more anxiety for this live. So We're gonna wing it. You're getting the real Lindsey. Okay, so these were kind of the compiled list. Gosh, I am not gonna get straight here. Of suggestions of things that people wanted to see. There were multiple requests for kind of the same thing, so I kind of squished it together. So grit paste. If you caught my story, I'm going to try to incorporate grit paste into whatever we do today, but all I have that I can use is translucent, because when I started going through all of my pastes, you know, I seal them like Tim Holtz does, and he does say these are not meant to last forever. That is not the intention behind these pastes. They're not forever pastes. You're going to have to replace them if you're not using them up. Thank you. Yes, Maureen. If I don't see your question, ask it again. So I use the press and seal, press down in there to kind of, you know, squish out the air to make it keep a little bit longer. But I mean, ultimately they will dry out eventually. And so I had to throw out a ton of mediums last night that were just rock hard. So the only grit paste I have is translucent. So we will try to incorporate that into something. Lots of mixed media questions, lots and lots. And I know that that's a very common question from people. And so that's why I try to do as much mixed media in my process videos as I can. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that more than what's already been answered in my process videos. But maybe it's just helpful to see it, you know, live in action, me making decisions about how to put things together, what mediums to use, and whatnot. So we'll definitely do some mixed media. Questions about how to work through a kit. And so each one of these lives is going to be completely different. They may focus on one entire Bible journaling page process at some point. They may be, you know, one entire, you know, assembling a devotional kit. This one I think is going to be kind of a little bit of everything all over the place. And so I left things unprepared so I could kind of walk you through how I make those decisions. But ultimately, guys, it just comes to, you just gotta make the decision. And I'm bad about it too. I will often just sit there for, you know, 30 minutes, an hour staring at a project like, okay, what do I want to do? And I have like a fear of commitment when it comes to crafting. And so sometimes you just have to like bite the bullet, dive in, make the decision. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you have to be okay with it not working sometimes and throwing it out, scrapping it out, throwing it away. That's kind of the nice thing about these deconstructed devotional projects, is that you can work on separate, you know, papers or, you know, different bits and pieces. And then, yes, it's a bummer that you're wasting product, you know, when you have to throw something away, but I would rather throw it away than have it live eternally in my Bible and be unhappy with it. So Bible pages are a little bit harder if you get unhappy with it, but hopefully over time as we do some projects on Bible pages, I'm sure there will be mistakes during these lives, and you'll get to see me live, you know, in action trying to correct those mistakes. And sometimes even that doesn't fix it, and you just kind of have to go with it. Let's see, putting together cinched devos, making decisions. So I kind of touched on that a little bit. Beautiful kits, lots of people asking to see the beautiful kits, because I know I haven't worked with this new series from Open Journey yet. Side note, I did go ahead and link the beautiful kits, the kit from By the Well. There were a couple other things I linked down there, and then at the end of this live later on tonight, after I do my super boring computer homework, I'm gonna go in there and update that entire link list with the different products that we use in the live today. So if you come back to it, watch the replay, or if you didn't catch the name of something or where to get it from, I'm gonna try to have those linked. I'm not perfect, I don't get it all linked every time, so if I forget something, just give me a gentle reminder and I'll go back in there and link it. Yes, Carol Hodges is saying the secret is just to start. There are no mistakes. That's a perfect way to look at it. You learn so much just from the process of creating. Let's see, beautiful memory decks using kit watercolors. So I didn't intend on doing a memory decks card today, that I didn't pull anything for that. But any of the things that I show you, you definitely can incorporate into a memory decks card. We can do a memory decks card in a future live, maybe next Friday live, which is not next Friday, but it'll be the Friday after that, 2 weeks from now. Watercolors, I do plan on trying to incorporate watercolors into a few different things today. Mixed media, mixed media, mixed media, lots of mixed media. Stamp storage, we covered that. Word study probably won't be in today's live. I can almost guarantee that. Part of that is it's a little bit difficult because I use my devices to do my study, and to walk you through that live, like I can't watch comments and video and use the Blue Letter Bible app. So I do have a Tip Tuesday all about how to do word studies. So I'll go back, I'll try to link that down below for you. Maybe you missed that particular Tip Tuesday. I can't really go into much more detail than what I already went into that particular video, unless you're wanting to see it live, I guess. But you know, we can talk about that maybe the next video. Inktense pencils, this was a late suggestion, was Inktense pencils, so I do have them off to the side here, so I can grab one. It won't be like an in-depth how to use them. I do have a Tip Tuesday all about that. Tip Tuesday Inktense, or I think it's Tip Tuesday watercolor pencils, and I do give lots of ideas of how to use those, but we'll try to pull out a couple and incorporate them into the mixed media today, possibly. So, and then watercolor, lots of questions for watercolor. I think watercolor gets so many questions because it can be a tricky medium. So let's start with that. So what I've done is I pre-cut some of the papers for the master's use. So towards the end here, I'll pull this apart and kind of do a couple quick filler pages for this and kind of show you the starting off point for this. And then for the beautiful kit, I went ahead and pre-cut some mixed media paper. I like this one that's 5.5 by 8.5 because I don't really have to cut it down much more. See, it's the same height as this devotional, and then I only have to trim off a little bit. I think I trim it to about 4 1/4, and then this fits. And so we can watercolor on this, and then it's something that we can stick in here if we want to. So I am working on mixed media versus watercolor paper. I did set aside some watercolor paper, but I can kind of show you. Watercolor paper definitely is better for watercolor. It's going to perform more how watercolor is supposed to perform on watercolor paper. So this is really nice watercolor paper from Tim Holtz. I think there's 20 sheets, and I bought this quite a while ago, and I hoard it. I don't use it because it's a little bit pricey. It's nice quality, you don't get a whole lot, and it's kind of pricey. So I tend to just go for mixed media paper because it is less expensive. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this. See how much floppier the mixed media paper is? It's thinner. So when it comes to doing Bible projects, whether I'm putting this card into my Bible or whether I'm putting it into one of these devotionals, this has more bulk to it than this does. I mean, look, this is even like 3 or 4 or 5 sheets of that mixed media paper, and it's floppier than the watercolor paper. And so it just doesn't take up as much space. Another thing is, I didn't grab a Bible. I know, that's awful, guys, but I try to make it very clear. This is not Bible study lesson lives. This is crafting lives with Bible journaling products. But with these stiffer cards, when you stick them into your Bible, they have a tendency to like pop up off the page. Even if you're using, smaller elements of it, it just is a little stiff for Bible paper. So I don't typically use this in those type of projects. So mixed media paper, you can still watercolor on. It's just going to be, you don't have as much workability with it. You can't scrub it as much. You can't get it quite as wet. You may have a little bit of curling and things like that. Oh, perfect. So By the Well for God just hopped in, said that they now have Canson mixed media paper in this size. So this is Strathmore. It doesn't make a difference. I've used Strathmore and I've used Canson, both interchangeably. So they just popped on. By the Will for God says they do have this 5.5 by 8.5 Canson mixed media paper in their shop. So I'll be sure to link that down below for you guys. I think slowly I am going further and further up. Not that you don't want to see all this up here, but you know. Okay, so you'll be able to get that there. So let's kind of dive into here and we'll do a little bit of watercoloring to put in here. So I've gone ahead and cut apart my devotionals. I have the first one, Beautiful Songs of Wonder. This was September's kit. And then I have Beautiful Purpose and Beauty. See, this is what I get for trying to adjust my filming setup so that you guys can see my face first. Maybe we won't be doing that in the future. So I took out the staple, and you can see that we can do that with this kit right here, because I've explained it, but I know sometimes it's helpful just to see it in action. And I know it can be scary. It can be scary to like take apart your devotional kit, but you're not going to hurt it, I promise you. So I just use a bone folder. This one is filthy and gross. They're all filthy and gross, so just ignore that. I like it because it has kind of a like tapered edge to it, so it is easy to get like underneath the staples. I say that, and then this is like really well stapled. So then I can just pull the staples open, or if you have a staple remover, so much easier. But you know, I have craft supplies, not office supplies. And then just pull the staples out. Ooh, I usually don't have that much difficulty getting them out. These were stapled really, really, really well. Okay, so those are taken out, and then now everything is separate. One key is to try to keep things organized so you don't lose, you know, the order that things go in. It is nice when the devotionals are numbered. I've noticed both of these are numbered, so that's helpful. And then I just go through and cut down the center of the page with a trimmer, and just start kind of assembling. So we'll go through real quick. I just saw a question, where's the ring binder from? So I did talk about those this week on my story, so I will link those down below for you guys. What am I doing here? Let's do this. The ring binders are from Freckled Fawn. I do have an affiliate code with them that gets you 15% off. So if you use the code Lindsey Lanning, you get 15% off at Freckled Fawn. There you go. Thank you, by the Will for God, Freckled Fawn. And it's funny, I could see after I mentioned them, lots of people went and ordered. So I hope that she has big stock in there, because I kept getting email notifications that you guys were going over and ordering those binders. So those binders are sized for traveler's notebook size. So they are really unique in that aspect, and I'll show you that more in detail here in a second. They are a 4-ring binder, and I will show you how I hole punch for that as well here in a minute. I don't know if you can see off to the side here. I guess you can. Yes, you can see what I'm doing. I'm keeping them all face up from the center, and then this piece goes underneath my stack, and this piece goes this way, and that's keeping everything organized. And then I've got the cover. And so the other nice part about this is that you could make your own cover if you wanted to. I know a lot, I talked about doing that with a couple kits ago. Heavenly Host from By the Will for God. I had thought about doing that, and I haven't gotten that one put together. But so now you can see everything is cut apart. So at this point, what I do is I leave it just free like this. I may use, you know, like a binder clippy to hold everything together, but then I can go and create all of my pages and then stick them in there and then bind it when I'm all done. If I'm going to coil bind it, let me see if I have, yes, I have one right here. So here's one that I did with the cinch. machine, I do have a video on my channel. If you search LindseyDecor cinch, it'll pull up that video and it walks you through how to use the cinch machine. And so then it's all coil bound together. But to do it this way, you do have to have your pages pre-constructed. Like all of your little insert pieces do have to be done, at least the base of them, done ahead of time before you coil bind it, because you're not really supposed to open these and close them, right? It's supposed to be cinched like this. So this is a really, really, really nice option. Now it is a little bulkier, you know, because it's in a binder. Cost-wise, you know, if you're having to buy binders every single kit, that definitely would add up. But I obviously can fit, you know, multiple kits in this binder. So this is from Freckled Fawn. They have several different colors. They're nice because they have the corner protectors and they are sized to fit standard traveler's notebooks. So they are 4-ring. So the nice part about that is that you can open and close, insert things, take them out to work on. So you just have to figure out what works best for you. Now to hole punch it, they do sell, you know, various hole punches out there that you can like adjust the holes. I am still using the We Are Memory Keepers punch board. This is the word punch board, but it doesn't matter. All the punch boards are the same. It's just the inserts that are different. So this one, and I don't want to take these out because I have them positioned where I need them. This one has just individual hole punchers that you can then move around, you know, to where it fits best for your project. And then I'm sure there's like a better, more scientific way to do this, but what I do is I just cut down a scrap piece of copy paper in the size, you know, that I would be doing my inserts in, or the size of the pages. And then I just lay this here and kind of just mark where the rings are. And then that way, when I come over to here, because this punch board, and I'm going to hold this up so you can see it. I know I'm a little bit zoomed out more than I typically am, so let's try to zoom in just a tad. Then I can lay this here and then place those hole punches where they're going to hit those marks. And then punch it, you flip it over, punch it again, and then now you're punched to fit in the binder. So hopefully that kind of gives you, you know, an idea of how I do that. Anything that I do is not the only way to do it. I am sure that there are, you know, a dozen different ways to do these setups, to even hole punch things, cut things, whatever it is. This is just my method, and that was kind of the point of the lives, is that you can see how I do things and how my brain thinks when I'm creating. Okay, so moving right along. So I've got these two. Maybe in the live today we'll make some tabs, but let's do a little bit of watercolor. Does that sound game? So I guess the question is, are the people that asked for watercolor in the live actually here to see it? Because if there is nobody here for watercolor, then we won't watercolor. We can do something else, but I guess that makes a difference. Let me check comments. Yes, yes to watercolor. NYC Latina, you are very thankful for showing. I have no problem. You're welcome for showing you how to put ideas together. Oh my gosh, you guys! I've been up since 4:30 doing the boys at the gym, so my brain's already fried. Can you zoom in a bit? Yeah, let me try zooming in just a little bit more. Let's try that. I guess I could have lowered it, probably would be better quality. So let's hope that the quality stays good. Love to see watercolor. Okay, so what kind of watercolor do you want to see? Do you want to see background watercolor? Do you want to see, you know, coloring in something with watercolor? I don't typically do like freehand watercolor. That's just not... My skills are very, very rusty, you guys. This year I have really done hardly any creating in my office, and so things are going to be very rusty in this video today. We could do some florals. I'm trying to look at the stamps I have over here while I look at your comments, and we'll get going. And I've got all the windows open because it is still hot here, so sorry about that. background watercolor. Okay, let's do that. I have my little bag from By the Will for God. This carried all my watercolor supplies to camping. Did I watercolor? No, but I had every intention to. I'm hoping once I'm done with school, I'll have like all the time in the world to watercolor. Like I did, this was like maybe months ago, pulled it out and was like, oh, I'm just gonna play with watercolor, and that is the extent of watercolor I've done this year. So let's see what happens. Let's do the watercolor swatch card also from By the Well. Let's do that because I think those colors will work fine. And if it doesn't work for the beautiful kit, I can always stick it into my By the Well for God kit. Okay, so I'm just going to put down a craft sheet just in, you know, because when I'm doing a background, I will probably be kind of off the paper here. Background watercolor. All right, ready to go. Let me get a big brush. Let's try these. Like I said, I haven't watercolored in hot minutes, so this could be an epic disaster. Okay, so kind of how I would probably do a background. Let's look. Let's do a watercolor background for the By the Will for God kit because I think that's gonna be a little bit more suited to the style of this kit versus Ingrid's beautiful kit. That I tend to steer more towards mixed media, really grungy. So let's do some like basic watercolor backgrounds that we can use with their kit. So I'm going to pull out the papers. This is what I mean about inspiration. I don't just sit down and just like go to town and come up with something out of my brain. I take inspiration from anywhere and everywhere. Maureen says she has to go make the kids dinner. Aw, thanks, Maureen. I appreciate you too. I adore you. Yes, and I'm going to try to post the replay as long as technology is not mean to me. Okay, so let's kind of look at the papers, kind of get a feel for the colors and like what we want going here. I kind of like this. So I like that I can translate these leaves into colorful blobs on the background of this. So that's going to be my inspiration. And I'm going to stick with this card because I know those colors are going to work with this. And then I'm going to get out, I don't have like an actual, oof, I almost dropped pretty stickers in water, watercolor like palette. So I'm going to use this little guy. Nice. Taryn says she's actually crafting alongside me for once. Way to go. Woohoo. I'm not one of those that can like craft while watching crafty videos. I know there's lots of you that do that, but I don't know. I can't do that. I gotta just focus. All right, so I've got 2 glasses of water. Is this necessary? No. I watercolored for many years with filthy, dirty, grungy 1 water cup. But as I have grown over the years, looked into watercolor a little more, it is best to have like a dirty cup of water and a clean cup of water. So the idea is that when you have paint on your brush, you're going into the dirty cup, you rinse it in the clean cup, and then the water that's going on your project is clean. So if you're having some issues with muddiness and the colors not being what you want, it could be your water. Because think about it, those pigments, you know, there's actually like ground up materials that create the colors in watercolor. It's not just like magical colored water like dye-based inks, you know, would be that. This actually will have like sediment and chunks and things like that. That's all floating in that water. So when you rinse your brush, you're picking that back up and then it's translating onto your project. So that alone might give you, you know, some better results. For a background, I like things very loosey-goosey. So I'm going to start by spraying my paper just a little with water. Now I am working on mixed media, so I can't get too wild and crazy with the water. So I'm going to be careful about that. And then I am going to plop out some colors onto my palette. And this is recommended. You can work straight from the cards, but it's better if you, I'm going to spray this also. If you pick up the color and then add it to a palette, and then that just gives you more control of, you know, how much pigment you're using, how much water you're using. You don't have things mixing on your card. But if you're like in a bind, you know, out at a baseball game watching your kids and all you have is this, you can get by. This is watercolor paper. So, all right, so dirty brush going into dirty water, rinsing in clean water. I need to get a paper towel. All right, how are we doing, guys, in the chat? Any questions while I'm transferring paint? And know that I am not a trained watercolor artist at all. I am a YouTube certified, just love it, have been passionate about it. It's one of my favorite mediums, and then just try to emulate what other people do. I don't think they offer watercolor classes at my college. They only offer like acrylic painting, I think, which I may end up taking because it looks like I'm going to get stuck with maybe one more extra semester of classes because they canceled my science class this semester, and I just don't think I can take 18 units my last semester. That would just probably do me in. All right, checking the chat. I know it's boring to see this, but we'll get there. But it also kind of gives you a real-time look at how long it takes to do these things. You know, a page doesn't get put together in 5 minutes. It can if you're just, you know, using the stickers and the ephemera and gluing things down, but mixed media takes time. And I think that's where I had struggled with it initially. I don't like to wait for things. I don't like to layer things. I just want it to look great right out the gate. And mixed media definitely takes some time. All right, so just a little bit more, and I'm gonna go in with this frazzled, sad little brush, I think. And then looking at this, I'm gonna go in. So I know that yellow is gonna work with the greens to intensify the blues and greens. That's just kind of color theory. I know that those are allowed to play together. The reddish orangish colors with the green will create more brown. Now, you typically don't want muddy browns, but I can see some browns in this color. So I'm in this background. So I'm gonna go against the rules. I'm gonna let some of these complementary colors interact and mix and create some browns. And that's just gonna kind of save me some time also creating colors for me. So you're like, Lindsey, just put paint on there. So this is what I'm gonna do. I mean, guys, it's not rocket science. And kind of the thing with watercolors like mixed media is I went into clean cup, see? Oops. It's building up layers. So this is gonna look not all that great at first. You see I'm kind of letting the yellows go into there so I can create some other additional colors. I'm not a big, even though I'm wearing a yellow shirt today, I'm not a big yellow fan. My husband picked that. These colors are kind of similar, so I'm not going to add too much of that. It's a little bit more red than that one was. I'm keeping things very, very watery, remembering that this is a background, right? So I don't want to have to compete with the background when I come in and do, you know, my layering pieces, my stamping, things like that. Okay, we're gonna add, oh, Ingrid's here. Ingrid from Open Journey is here. I've been picking her brain about charcoal and graphite because that medium like made me cry at first in my class last semester. But I kind of grew to enjoy it, and I kind of just need to go for it and try some more and play with it. I like the like hands-on aspect of working with charcoal. That part, once I got over the messy part, it was kind of fun. It's like finger painting. All right, so I am getting a little bit of mud in there, and we're still still pretty bright compared to this, but we'll kind of come in and dirty it up with some distress products. So ideally you want your layers to kind of dry, and I'm going to show you another way to do this. Let me find, you think I'd have some plastic packaging right here. I've got a million things of plastic from all my unboxings. So I'm just going to use the plastic that's on the stamp. Okay, so we're going to hit this with the dryer just so that I can move quickly for your guys' sake, but I do like to leave these to air dry. And sorry, I am not technology advanced where I can make it so that you can't hear the dryer. Maybe we'll get there in a future live, but for now you just got to listen to the dryer. Anyways, I like to let it air dry because you really get beautiful natural look from that. But for the sake of this, I can't believe we've already been here 40 minutes. Crazy how quickly time goes by. I think that's it too, is that like creating and crafting takes time, right? It's not like super quick. You can barely hear the heat tool, Taryn says. Maybe it's a new phone. Hopefully, gosh, for how stinking much that new phone cost me, it better like edit my videos for me. I was gonna use a small brush, but I think I'll stick with this one. So what I'm gonna do is kind of the same idea. I am gonna go straight from here just for the sake of time. I'm gonna put the paint right on here. I am gonna stick with the orange, red, and yellow. Yeah, see, Ingrid agrees. Air drying yields better results, 100%, because it gives time for the pigments to kind of spread out and interact and wick and create like hard edges. And with these particular watercolors, these are the Daniel Smith watercolors, and I always mention this in my unboxings, like how amazing these are, because they are just fine artist grade. But some of these ones, I'm trying to see. Yes, this Carnet Genuine, I can see, here, I'll hold it up. There's this little circle P right there. That means it's in the Primatech line. So the Primatech line is created by grinding up gemstones and minerals, like, you know, literally grinding up stuff like this. I mean, not these, but like this, into a fine powder and creating a paint out of it. And so what happens as a result of that, and you're going to see that a little bit in this, that yellow is not, but I am seeing some granulation. So this right here is granulation. This, some people hate, don't want that. They look for paints that don't do that. I love it. And there are artists that seek that out. And that is one thing about the Primatech line. They do tend to do that more. So you get this really cool, like, it looks like dirt, but it's not, I mean, it's on there. It's not going anywhere. And it just creates all of this fun texture. I like it because I'm a lazy crafter. It does the work for me. I don't have to add that texture. It's already on there with the paint. So that's one of the many reasons I like the Primatech. Okay, so this is very, very pigmented. I took it straight from the card. This has like no water. So I am gonna spray this quite a bit. I'm also gonna spray this. I'm doing that because if I left this dry and left this the way it is, when I stick this down, you're just gonna have these harsh blobs of dark color. I do not want that. I want this to stay pretty soft. I'm a little nervous because this is looking pretty pigmented. It's gonna be not as soft as I'm wanting, but that's okay. Maybe it'll be a mistake that we have to fix on camera. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this over, and then I am going to just dab it and stick it. Now I added a lot of water because I was really nervous, so it's really kind of going everywhere, but I mean, that's just going to be a lot faster than trying to dab things in there. So I'm going to wipe this off. One nice thing about drying things is you can lock things in when you see it and you like it. So let's say I don't want this red to really bleed out and go everywhere. I can go ahead and dry this, and then it's going to lock in where it's at, and it's not going to move much more. Yeah, see, Ingrid's like me. Ingrid loves granulation. That is like a key requirement for me with watercolors, is it needs that granulation. Okay. I know you guys logged on to watch paint dry, right? But now you can see, especially right in here, you can see that blue coming through the red, and we're getting all of those really beautiful layers. And I think when we come back in and blend in some distress ink over this, it will just give us a really pretty dark, kind of vintagey looking background. And yes, I would do this on my Bible page directly. Watercolors are fine to use in your Bible, as long as you've tested them in the back of your Bible, because, and this is like a sensitive, I try not to talk about drama, but there is a gal, I know there's a couple, that really talk out like against those of us who like naysay inexpensive products, and I'm all for using what you got. But when it comes to watercolor, you get what you pay for. So Crayola watercolors, they bleed through your Bible pages. So I love that you can get them for like less than $5, but you're gonna be really bummed. So now, do you need to go out and buy, you know, expensive Daniel Smith? No, not necessarily. There are some in-betweens. In fact, this palette that I actually use quite frequently, this is mostly the is it Art Philosophy now? They used to be Prima, but they're Art Philosophy watercolors. These are a crafting watercolor. Now here's where you can really see the difference. Here you can see there are a few Daniel Smith watercolors mixed in. So this is a Daniel Smith, this is a Daniel Smith, this is a Daniel Smith, and can you see why I know why? Look at the granulation that's in there. So something like this is a craft quality watercolor. Now, some of Daniel Smith's are smooth also, so I'm not saying they aren't, but just in my palette and knowing what I have, I can tell what's what just based off of what the watercolor looks like in here. So you can get the Art Philosophy ones. I think they're about $20 for one of the small pan palettes. I don't have one right here, I don't think, but they come in small pans, and then I just put them all in there, so that's a good medium. Okay, I am liking this. There is a little bit, I kind of want a little bit more blue. So let's do another stamp with the plastic with the blues. Ingrid, that's what I use. That's what I use also. What do you use also? That palette or the plastic? I need to know all your secret ways. I told Ingrid I really need her to teach some art classes online so I can just go to Ingrid Art School instead of where I'm going, because guarantee I would learn a whole heck of a lot more than what I'm learning right now. It's very frustrating. I guess I went into it thinking like community college, if you're going to offer like an associate's degree, like you should learn something out of it, but I think their whole purpose is to just ship you off to university where you spend more money and get further into debt and spend longer outside of society just racking up debt. Do we all know how I feel about the college system? Oh, I know, Sandra, right? Online classes. Okay, so now I've got the greens, sprayed some water. We're going to spray this. Watercolors are not permanent. They will reactivate. Oh, nice. So Ingrid's saying she uses the Prima watercolors also. So there you guys go. They're Prima, Daniel Smith, you know, Daniel Smith, if you're going to be doing things that are going to be like hung on the wall and preserved, you know, in a way like that, then you want to take into account the light fastness of your watercolors. So the Primas definitely don't have the light fastness that nice, you know, artist grade quality do, just because of the fillers and what they're made out of. Thank you. Yes, Taryn, that's Mabel. I don't even know what she's barking at because my family is nowhere near being home. But if it's just going in your Bible, it doesn't really make a difference, the quality when it comes to light fastness, because, I mean, your Bible's closed. It's not really going to see a whole lot of light. Okay. Anyways, this does reactivate just a little bit because watercolor is not permanent, but especially on mixed media paper, because it absorbs so much of it, you don't have to worry about that too much. It doesn't move too much. Now, if you're working on watercolor paper, it will move more when it's wet because this is like a coated paper. It's not glossy coated, but there is a sizing that's over the top of it that helps the watercolor kind of sit on top of the fibers at first before it, you know, kind of sinks in. So you will get more movement. And if you make a mess up, it's easier to lift the mess up off of watercolor than it is off of mixed media. So there's that. All right, so let's stamp some of this. I do want it kind of in here. I use less water, so hopefully it's not going to be a total gloopy gloppy mess. And this is another one of those where it just looks terrible and looks terrible and looks terrible until it all comes together. That's just mixed media and watercolors like that. So maybe that's part of the thing that some of us struggle with is, you know, not hanging with it until it gets to that not horrible position. Thank you so much. NYC Latina, thank you. And I did see another one from Tiffany. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys doing that for me. It is a huge, huge help. Like, I know we are all facing inflation right now, right? So fun. My grocery bill went from $120 a week to $330 a week. And we don't buy anything fancy. So frustrating. So thank you. I appreciate that. All right. And see, when I use less water, I'm getting these really fun kind of water droplet spots. I like those quite a bit. And we can go in and do some Lindsey splatters, of course. You know me. Now, before I go and blend Distress ink over this, I do want to make sure it's good and dry. I'm not going to fully dry that. Now, if there's like big puddles, I like to, you know, not wait for that and pick them up. Okay, so that's what we're working with right now. It looks kind of crazy. I think I'm actually going to put some brown splatters on here, I think is what I'm going to do. See, Ingrid knows. She says, I think it looks great. It's because Ingrid knows that this is just part of the process. You hang with it until the very end. Yeah, she says, I love the donation feature. I didn't know it existed. I didn't either. And then I was going through my stuff the other day, and I saw somebody did like a super thanks on a video years ago, and I didn't even know that was a thing. So thank you for those of you who do that. That is just an extra fun little way to help support what I do, and just to say thank you. Definitely not a requirement for being here at all, but I do appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to keep that pretty minimal. I don't want it too much. And so you can see my paper was not completely dry, so I'm getting a little bit of wicking, but I'm okay with that. It's adding more texture, and I could even like lightly spray this and kind of make that do it more if I wanted. See, it's just playing, guys. Maybe that's the benefit of seeing this in a live, is that I just play. You know, sometimes I go into it with a set idea for what I'm going to do, but that's really just getting in there and playing with it. And the more and more you play with your materials, the more and more you understand how they behave and how they react with other things. So then you can more confidently explore and try new things. I know how watercolor plays on dry paper versus wet paper because I've tried it both ways. So when I'm sitting down and trying to decide what I want my background to look like, I already can kind of have an idea. Now, I can't say exactly how it's going to turn out because I'm not God. I don't know the future. But I can have a better idea of what that's going to look like, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is pretty wrinkly. It's okay. We can flatten this out. I'll probably run it through my die cutting machine. I can tell that this is a little bit wet still down here. How are we doing in the chat? Any questions so far? I am actually really liking. So you can see it's still quite a bit different, but kind of the same vibe. So I could go ahead and just say my background's done, put it in my booklet, add some notes and some ephemera, but I want to grunge this up. So let me grab some distress inks, I think is what. Do we want to go distress inks or distress oxides? Let's go distress oxides. Distress oxides are a little bit softer when you blend them. And so This is a little bit of a softer vintage brown. Yeah, of course Taryn votes yes, grunge it up. Hey, Arte y Biblia. You'd think after all these years of living in Central California, I'd have a better accent, but I don't. Sorry, guys. Okay, this is my magical book of swatches. So I've gone ahead and swatched out every medium in my office. And so when coming to this, I can, hey, Gail. Gail is late to the party, and that's okay, Gail. You are here just in the right time. Okay, so now I can take this. So I'm going to go to my browns. What I've done here is I've stamped in regular Distress ink, and then I blended Distress Oxide over. So in the white spaces, I kind of get an idea of what the blended oxide looks like versus the intensity of stamping with the Distress ink. You could go crazy and do, you know, one set for regular, one set for oxides, but this gives me kind of a general enough idea. It also, the really helpful thing about this is it helps you to see the difference in colors. So like my spray stains versus the inks, you can see how much more intense the spray stains are than the inks. So, you know, I really utilize this quite a bit. So looking at this, I know I don't want to go to Gathered Twigs. That's going to be way too dark for what I'm looking at. Vintage Photos looking a little bit better, but I think this brush corduroy is going to be, because I'm looking in here, I actually may even try to decide between antique linen and brush corduroy. What do you guys say? Brush corduroy, antique linen. Which one are we gonna do? I mean, we could always go in with antique linen first. Try that. If it's not giving me the look that I want, we can always come back in with brush corduroy. Both. All right, Sandra says both. So let's go in with antique linen, brush corduroy, antique linen. Taryn says, okay, so we'll start with antique linen, and then I will go in if we feel like we need brushed corduroy. One important note about your inks: if you have both Distress inks and the Distress Oxide inks, do not mix and match your blending foams. You do not want to contaminate your regular Distress inks with the Oxide formula. So this is a regular Distress ink ink pad. This is the Oxide ink pad. Okay, so if you use this, don't dip that in your regular ink. You will contaminate your regular ink pad. So that's really important. I know it's kind of a pain because you've got to have, you know, multiple of these. These are fairly inexpensive. I order so that I have enough, like one sponge for each and every color, just because I'm lazy and don't want to clean things. But they are foam. You can wash them if you want to with some gentle soap to save money. I did do that for many, many years. So my stash, when you see it, has been built up little by little for very, very many years. Okay, so I've got my blending sponge. Yes, this isn't, I'm fairly certain this is antique linen, but it looks pretty pinky. What is the page protector you're using for the swatch book? Lisa, for the swatch book, I am using 2-inch coin pocket page protectors. That's what I searched on Amazon. I'm not quite sure. Let me see if I have the brand right here. Oh, look at that. I actually have them right here. This is what I got. 20 pocket size is 2 by 2, and they're coin pockets. That's what they're actually meant for. So they're 2-inch by 2-inch, and then I just go through and cut a bunch of watercolor paper in the 2-inch size, and then I stamp my swatch. And to stamp my swatch, I don't want to show the stamp I use because I don't promote that company anymore. But it's just a stamp that's like a big kind of rectangle stamp that had a lot of detail on the front. I flip it upside down and stamp with the back side of the stamp, and that's how I get that solid rectangle. They sell solid rectangle stamps out there, but you know, I'm about budget friendly. Okay, so I'm gonna go in here, ink this up, and you can see this is gonna transform the background colors quite a bit. And then we can go in and add water droplets and really add some more texture and colors to it if you want. This is a little yellow. Remember, this is what we're going for. So I think we'll probably have to go in with that brushed corduroy a little bit. And it is going to turn, this particular color is going to make the blue watercolor look more green, right? Because yellow and blue make green. So just keep that in mind. And again, that's just something I know from working with my products, playing with things, mixing things. You know, if you had never played with these, you might be really shocked and disappointed that now your blue looks green because you hadn't thought about the yellow ink affecting that. So again, that just comes with time and playing with it. Now doing this, I am noticing that I probably could have had a little bit darker paints because I am losing a lot of those reds, but that's okay. We can leave it as is, or maybe figure out a way to add that back in. Maybe we could even try smushing the watercolor over the top of this and see what happens with that. Okay, so that's where we're at with the antique linen. I don't hate it, but it is a little yellow. So, hey Beverly, thanks for joining us. Okay, so this is brushed corduroy. I'll leave that right here. I think brushed corduroy has a little bit of yellow to it too, so we're gonna see that come through. You could take a by the well background stamp upside down to the swatches. Yes, definitely. I need to find an alternative stamp to give you guys, because the one that I use is like just slightly larger than the bottom of these cards. So the stamp is kind of like that. So there might be a stamp in your stash that would work for that. But yes, the background stamp upside down would definitely work as well. And then I just use my stamp positioning tool. I put my stamp in there, load it up with ink, stamp it on the swatch. I only stamp one time because if I'm stamping a stamped image, I'm not double stamping that stamp in my Bible because I'm never going to be able to line it up the same again. So I'm not going to double stamp in my swatch. Even though I might want that color more intense, it's not going to be accurate to the way that I use it in my Bible. Okay, this is pretty yellow too. So I don't know, this is taking a turn. We'll see what happens. But we can build up things and add more mixed media over the top of this and really kind of dress it up. So see, my backgrounds aren't always like banger out, you know, backgrounds right out the gate. They're not as smooth to blend with. All right, so we are way off from this. So let me think for a second what we're gonna do here. I am gonna add a little bit of water droplets just to kind of break this up a little bit. There was a recent video that I did, and I know many of you watched it. Yep, Gail, there we go. Where I had like a oh my gosh moment with a background, and it was like ooh in the video, but then it kind of worked out. All right, that's looking better. I think we need something darker in there, actually, I think is what it's gonna need. So I'm just spraying some water while it's still wet. I'm lifting it up, and that is lifting the Distress ink. It's also gonna activate the Distress oxide so that it gets kind of this really soft, velvety effect to it. That is a unique thing with, see, that's everything I lifted. Unique thing with Distress oxides. Looks like leather. It does kind of. I like that texture. That did definitely help quite a bit. Adding the texture, brought in the colors back a little bit. See, we're getting there. And, you know, this is part of it. This is sometimes what happens behind the scenes, is just over and over and over again. I try to leave this in camera. I try not to edit it out too much. But sometimes if I'm just repetitively adding and lifting, adding and lifting, adding and lifting, I will cut that out of a video and you guys don't see that. All right. So at this point, let's go ahead and start just adding some stamping and things to it to maybe pull it together. If we do some light brown stamping, that might help. Light brown stamping, or do we want to ink with distress inks? Oh, let's stamp first. I'm not loving this piece, but we'll get there. We will get there. Okay, so this is the new Imperishable Flowers stamp set. All right, Sandra, I'm sorry you have to go back to work, but yes, hopefully you'll be able to catch the replay. That is my goal, is to get that up. All right, so this is Imperishable Flowers from By the Will for God. And then I also, let me see, pulled out some Tim Holtz ones too that I thought. I pulled out some leaves for Beautiful, some butterflies for Beautiful, but I kind of like this big, I think I'm gonna use this actually. Yeah, I like this one, but I think I'm gonna do like a big floral on the side. So this one is Floral Trims from Tim Holtz. And I need my Big Mama stamp block. Should be pretty close. Yep. I'm kind of thinking of like on the side maybe. Yes, I'm also trying to, so in my mind, what I'm processing right now is that when it's in the booklet, let me see. Well, now I don't know where I put the devotional. Anyway, oh, here it is. When it's in the book, right, and we're opening the pages, I'm keeping in mind, like, this is going to be face up. So do I want the florals coming in from the binding, or do I want them coming in from the edge? I tend to like things coming in from the center and then going out versus, you know, facing towards the center. That's just me personally. I don't know. They didn't actually teach me design in my design class last semester, so I just do what I want. Could you use small acrylic block for swatching? Probably not. And I'll tell you why. This is super slick acrylic, and so the inks, and I'll show you, the inks will bead up on here. So here, we'll ink this up and we'll stamp it down on a piece of paper. And like it doesn't like mush, because the stamps have some squish to them, so it like squishes and distributes that ink. Because this is hard acrylic, it just stays little droplets, if that makes sense. So, I mean, you might be able to get it to work if you played with it, but that wouldn't be my go-to method for doing that. Okay. So I'm thinking I want it kind of peeking in from the edge here. I'm going to go in with a darker brown. Let's look at some of the browns from the kit and think if we're going to stick with, I think we'll stick with brushed corduroy. But I am going to switch to regular distress ink for this. You are very welcome, Allison. Okay, this is a new stamp, so let me grease it with my natural olive oil. I can remember in the early days when I would rub it on my arm, I had a couple comments that people were like so grossed out by that, but you know, it's my supplies, not yours, so I'm gonna rub it on my arm and I'm okay with it. So I do want to transition to the larger ink pads eventually, but these are what I've had. I've actually had this set of distress inks. This was the very first Bible journaling supply I ordered back in like 2014, 2015. So I've been using these ever since then. But as you can see, it is a little tricky to use them on these bigger stamps. All right, so we have a decision. I can stamp it as is, and it's going to give us a nice crisp image. Or I could spray it with some water and it's going to give us a little bit of softer, kind of mushy look, what do you guys vote? Do you want nice and crisp, or do we want a little bit of softness? Remember, this is background stuff that we're going to build up from here. 210 already. Oh my goodness. I'm going to breathe on it. Taryn says mushy. I'm breathing on it. Hot air just to kind of keep it damp while we're deciding. Mushy it is. Never brave enough for mushy. All right, mushy. Go mushy. So just a little, oh, crisp. Okay, we'll do some crisp too. You saw 1, 2, maybe 3. Quick spritz. With this bottle, now can you use any bottle? Heck yeah, you can use whatever you want. But this one is nice because if you pull it all the way down, it's a fine mist. If you like lightly do it, it like splutters and spits and gives you droplets. So depending on the look that you want, I like that you can do both with that water bottle from Ranger. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of squish right here. I don't want it to take up the whole background because again, the idea is I'm going to come back in and add, you know, my title, maybe add a quote or a scripture or, you know, a cluster of something. There we go. So it isn't super, super mushy because I didn't use a ton of water, but you can see here, it just blends together a little bit better and you get just a different look than if you stamp directly. So I am liking that. That does a little better. I think ultimately we're probably going to come in and just dress up the edges of this piece just a little bit more. I feel like it needs a vignette framing, so we'll get there. Okay, the other, let's see. Let's trying to decide what to use here. I didn't grab out a ton of stamps. Let's see what we got over here. Oh, here we go. Doing a little coffee ring. I like that. Let's add, where's the kit? More flowers. Here's the kit stamp. Oh, maybe the lungs. Just because I can and because I like them. Okay. Yeah, I like. Okay, so what I'm thinking in my head, I definitely want to use the lungs. I'm going to kind of go, you know, I'm kind of creating this little L shape right here. In some of the imagery, it's like the organs layered with flowers. So I'm trying to decide right now in my brain if I want to stamp another smaller flower cluster in one color and stamp the lungs in a second color over the top of that to kind of create that layered effect. And I don't think I have, did they do it on here? No, it was the old card and I literally just dumped out my trash. Okay. What's the vote, guys? Do we do solo or layered? These actually match that Tim Holtz large piece really, really well. Layered. Taryn says layered. I agree. I think layered. And maybe we can do, okay. So when I go to stamp this in a second color, I am going to choose to stamp it with the Distress Oxide ink. Distress Oxide inks are a mix of dye and, I got watercolor everywhere. Dye and pigment-based ink. So the pigment is more opaque and it's going to sit on top of what you stamp on. The dye-based ink is more intense and it's going to just sink right into the page. And not sit on top of things. It's going to be more influenced by what's underneath it because it's not as opaque. Pigment is opaque, so I'm definitely going to stamp this in a Distress Oxide, but let's stamp a little flower doodad down here, and you can see what I'm doing. I'm testing it. I'm kind of positioning that You know, do I think it's gonna go with this one? I'm gonna try out maybe the cluster, and then try that. So before I commit, okay, everybody's saying layered. Okay, good. I'm testing things out to see where I want it before I go for it. I think so. I'm looking at maybe this little section right here. I don't want to stamp, because see what happens? If I stamp this right over that flower in its entirety, it's just a mishmash of lines. So I do want it to lead off of that stamp just a little bit, so that this is going to pull my eyes to be able to pick out that there's something different stamped over the top of that. That's my goal. It doesn't always work. We'll see what happens, but that's going to be my goal with this. So let's go ahead and pull this off. I hope that's helpful to hear kind of some of those thought processes that are going in my head. Everybody's gonna, you know, do it differently and have a different way of processing it, but you guys, you don't just, some people can just stick stuff down and it's perfect right out the gate. They don't have to think about it. I have to think about things, and I am an overthinker most times about things. Okay, so I'm gonna layer this back on. Try to remember the orientation that we had. Maybe like that. Oh, let's do it like this. Okay. So I'm looking to see open space. Like I had a lot of leaves going on here, so there's a little bit more open breathe room. Okay, so that's how that's gonna go. And then color-wise, I think I'm gonna go ahead and stamp that one in that same Distress Ink color. Oh my gosh, you guys, there's stuff everywhere already. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna stamp this in Brush Corduroy, and then we'll stamp over the top of it. I'm gonna try to remember how this goes. Maybe with like some pink or red. I mean, even gray if you wanted to stay with your neutrals. Oop, I did not. Okay, so I did not prep my stamp. This is a brand new stamp. And so what I need to do, especially with distress inks, you got to go for it. You got to get it dirty, whether that's stamping in archival ink and then, you know, cleaning off the archival ink. What this does is it removes some of the manufacturing residue that's on the stamp, and it's also adding a little layer of skin or something to it that is making that surface so that the ink will adhere on it a little better, especially with distress inks. Distress inks are water soluble inks. They're meant to act with water. When you're stamping with them, you know, they're meant to look distressed and aged, and so they kind of bead up on the stamp. But now that I have prepped the stamp with my arm oils, that ink is going to be more consistent on that stamp. I'm also going to spray this just twice, just so it matches this. Yes, and my see, Latina, you can use an eraser as well. If you were grossed out by what I just did, you can use an eraser. But I pulled all my erasers and put them in my art bag, so I don't have them now. Here's another difference that you're going to see. This is a really good way to see it. This was a rubber stamp. This is a clear acrylic stamp, and you can already see there is a lot of water. I sprayed it the exact same amount of times that I sprayed this, but you're just going to get differing results. It's going to react differently on the way that it holds the ink, holds the water. The rubber is a little bit more porous, so it kind of holds on, and things kind of just seep into it a little bit, whereas on the acrylic it sits more on top, and so you're going to get more bubbly sprinkles and blobs. But you can see I'm not going to let it sit on very long. I want to lock in what I stamped, so I'm going to go ahead and heat set that. And it doesn't look terribly different from this, but you are getting more of that smushy, see right here? It looks like it's been watercolored. And yes, Open Journey saying it looks beautiful. Thank you. I actually like it better when it's like this. This I probably should have added more water to it to compensate for it being on one of those rubber stamps. Okay, I'm not going to clean up things as I go, just so that you guys don't have to watch that happen. Let's go in and stamp the lungs. I have not pre-picked out colors for this kit yet. So we need to color. I'm kind of thinking something in the pink range is what I'm thinking, since lungs are pink. But I don't know, should we go blue? I mean, I know that lungs aren't blue, ideally. They should be. Healthy lungs shouldn't be blue. But the blue will pull in with the blues that are in the paper. So what are we thinking? As far as, let me give you guys some ideas. Here. Okay, it's nice. Thank you. Thanks, Ingrid, for pointing that out. It's nicer when I pull it up so you can see all the details. Yeah. You can really see all of that texture and all the layers. So this is something you kind of miss out on in the videos versus seeing it in person. Is what I'm seeing is all of that texture. Okay. Oh, maybe you want to go like this color for the lungs, like more of that kind of burnt orangey color. So now in my brain, because my brain is, I'm very photographic. I like visualize things in my head. And so I'm visualizing, what do I think this will look like if it's orangey red? Bright pink might not fit in with what we got going in here. Yeah, see Taryn's saying rusty orange. Taryn and I think a lot similar. So I'm kind of thinking maybe like that. That's a little red. That's a little red. Oops, crackling. Okay, so here I didn't blend in the other ink for my crackling campfire, but crackling campfires, love the fired brick. Okay, let's see. Oranges, we've got, I mean, we could even do antique linen. For pinks, we could go tattered rose. That might work. Because then I am going to go over things with some more distress ink blended, I think. What about a blue? Yeah, Gail, I'm kind of wondering about blues. Let's see. Like iced spruce might work. Speckled egg could work. So let me kind of lay these out. And so if you could kind of visualize a little detailed line of one of these colors. I don't know, I am kind of thinking maybe the blue. I think Gail's right, because I've got these big splotches of blue. I know that the pink and the reds kind of went away. But so now if I stick a red, it's going to be super obvious compared to what all else I'm going on. So again, I'm wanting this very muted. So I think I'm going to go with speckled egg. Sorry for all the red voters. Okay. We'll fix that up later. So speckled egg, making sure it's just distress oxide. And we'll see. I don't know. It might be an epic failure, but you guys get to see it live in action. But I think this is gonna work. And so the other nice thing about doing separate pages is then I get to pick where I want these to go in the devotional. So maybe, you know, in my mind, blue lungs mean death, disease. You're not breathing. You're not getting oxygen, like oxygenated blood from your lungs. And so your veins and stuff are blue in the areas where you don't have as much oxygen. So maybe on one of the days where it's talking about that, you know, not being spiritually healthy, this is what I would use on that page. And that's kind of my thinking behind what I create with my pages. Like, why am I going to go with this color? Why am I going to go with what I'm putting on here? Blue to me means death and disease. So, okay. I don't know. Maybe I overthink things, but I know a lot of people are very curious about, you know, kind of all that process. All right. So you're going to go, whoop, that didn't work, but hold on. I think we can save it. So, one cool thing about distress oxides is that they react with water and they oxidize. So what I'm thinking is when I spray this lightly with water, because I'm not wanting to mess up too much, it's going to kind of make that come to life and be brighter. Look, I just saw it do it as I sprayed it. So let's see if we can get that to lighten up and come out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, Ingrid's right. Red pigments are stronger usually. Hey Kim, no worries coming in late. I will try to post the replay. So I am hopeful maybe if I spray this a couple times, we'll get it to brighten up a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe we need to go back over it with like a pink or red maybe. I really wanted that to be a bright blue. And actually, I have an idea. This is not a sanctioned way to use your stamps, I don't think. So I'm just going to put that out there. I think that if Tim Holtz knew I was doing this, he'd be like, no, do that. Distress paints are permanent. So I think he typically tells us to not stamp with distress paints. But I'm going to be real quick about how I clean my stamp. And I think it's going to be A-okay. We're going to do it. So this is why I'm picking this. This is paint. It's going to be more opaque, and so it's going to not let you see the background quite as much. So I'm going to see if we can save this with the blue, and if not, we'll put a die cut there, and it'll be okay. We can save it, but I am kind of determined to make this one work. I know they sell them now with the flip tops. I don't like the flip tops as much. I prefer, I've swapped out a lot of mine. I prefer these sponge daubers, because I can go like this. I can paint this paint on my stamp with the sponge dauber. A lot easier than pouring out the paint and trying to dab my stamp into that. Or if you have a stamp positioning tool, you could stamp in white paint or pigment ink first, and then stamp a color over it, and that'll help the color pop off of the background. That white will kind of help it pop off, but we'll see if this works. Nope. I mean, I can see it in person, but it's not giving me the look that I want, so we may have to just scrap that, ignore it, figure out some other way to deal with that. I'm afraid if I keep sticking stuff on there, it's just going to be a muddy mess. So maybe we will try a red. Sorry, Gail, I tried. I had high hopes. You might be able to save the blue standout with acrylic or embossing powder. Thank you. You are so right. Gosh, see, glad you're here, Ingrid. All right. Let's. Do we go in with a blue embossing glaze? Or do I just quit trying to do the blue? That's the question. Do I throw in the towel? There's speckled egg. Yeah, thanks, Gail. I hope you'll probably have better luck. You've had more live experience. Maybe it'll go better for you. I think I'm going to try it with a speckled egg glaze. I can already tell that my image is like fuzzy because I double stamped it. And then with this, I want to make sure my background's really, really, really good and dry before we go in with this. Okay, so I'm going to hold this up. You can see it's losing some detail for sure. But I am hopeful that this will bring back some of the detail. Oh, Tiffany, you got to step away. Thanks. Yes, watch the replay. You missed lots of mistakes and errors and fumbles along the way. I would stamp in black first, Divine, and then use white embossing powder. I'm a little afraid of the white, Taryn. I'm afraid it's going to be too stark against what we've got going on unless I added white. but there isn't really any white in the kit. It's very creamy. So if I had a creamy, yeah, Gail, worst case scenario, stop a die cut. I agree. All right, I think we're gonna do this. This will be my last attempt, and then if it doesn't work, then we'll just stick a die cut on it. I'm gonna just do Versamark clear ink. Speckled egg is a great color. The embossing powder, also Ranger. Yes. Yep. This is Ranger embossing powder in speckled egg. Glazing powder. Yes. So this particular embossing powder is translucent. Now I'm thinking about it, I used transparent versus translucent wrong in both my videos this week, I think. I'm just going to take a drink really quick. It's translucent, meaning I'll be able to see what's underneath it. Did I just ink that up? Guys, I'm losing my mind. Yes, you can kind of see through it and see some of the texture coming out. I prepped it with my embossing tool, powder tool, to take away any moisture, fingerprints, anything like that. We've got a lot of wet medium products going on here, and I've been drying it as we go along, but there is potential that that embossing powder is going to stick to damp areas. So by using that tool is going to help prevent that. You are very welcome, Carla. She says, this is awesome. Thank you. Oop, I wiggled it. Oh gosh, guys. It's going downhill very quickly. All right. I'm sure there's a lesson that we can get out of this some way. It says clear sticky ink. I'm gonna put my embossing powder on there. Oh, it didn't wiggle too bad, but it's not great. That's okay. It's okay. And as I'm looking at this, probably could have shifted over just a little bit, but that's okay. That's a personal preference. Who's crafting while I'm crafting and feeling better about their mistakes because you're getting to see mistakes live? Exactly. Tiffany says it's just mixed media. Throw some splatters on it. No one will notice. 100% agree with you. Just some white gesso, right? We'll just and the white gesso will pick up some of the distress ink and it'll all be good. I'm going to switch to my embossing tool just because it's a little bit faster for setting this glaze, and it will turn shiny when it's melted. This is better. Probably should have done this to begin with. Yep. But what I'm seeing is it's now picked up the yellow undertones and it's become more green. And it's, see my double stamping line. But that's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to cry about it. All right. Do we want to continue putting this together, or do you want to see different technique? Let's see, 2:30. So I had planned on these being about 2 hours. I've got up until 3:30 before my family is coming home, so we can go a little bit over if we need to. I'm a little hesitant to finish this with like labels and words because I'm not quite sure where I'm going to stick this in the devotional, so I won't be able to decide like on the letter stickers. It's much darker than I thought. Yeah, it definitely takes on a darker color, Ingrid, for sure, which is good. I think it kind of helped. Bye, Gail. Love you. Hope you have a great day. All right, so let's see. I mean, I don't want to. I feel like at this point, one, I haven't cut out all my borders, and you guys know me. I can't do that. I can't put the white. So one, I'm gonna have to distress this, and two, I want to come in and cut out borders. Yes, Gail, I like the blue too. So now, but I do feel like maybe we need some more blue in there. Let's see if we have any. Because Ingrid from Open Journey, her die cuts are cut right up to the edge, so it saves me some time. So maybe we can use something from one of those kits to go with this kit. possibly. I'm not sure. Does anybody have any ideas? I mean, because in my brain, what I'm envisioning is I'll probably have like a label sticker. Here. With the, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's set this aside. You guys will see this finished in the devotional. Let's set this aside. We'll move and we'll do like a background or a small snippet piece for the beautiful devotional, because I know that is what most of you asked for, and I kind of just jumped into this one. So let me move this aside. Oh, good job. Tiffany says that she reorganized her Open Journey stuff so that she can have it more accessible, use it more often. Girl, you should have seen my Open Journey cart. Because everything works so well together, I just kept like piling stuff into my cart, and it was just overflowing. It was so bad. Okay, let's do Open Journey. Okay. Let me just kind of stick a few things off to the side here, just to give myself some space to breathe. Okay, so beautiful kits. Let me look at what we have. So the nice thing about these is she does include some of these full pages. Oh, like this one. So they are a little bit shorter than the devotional, but I'm okay with that. That one is good to go. We could go ahead and create some things on there. Would love to see your ideas with her stamp set. Okay, the new stamp set, this one right here. This actually would be a real, let's do that. I'm not even gonna ask. That's what we're gonna do. Because I have ideas that I can show you with that. Okay, so we are gonna create a background with this stamp set. I am going to try to create a little bit of a quick mixed media background to stamp on, just because I know that I want it to be in layers. To help me, I think I am going to use, I know, Tiffany says she loves the stamp set. I have not gotten to use it yet. Oh, here, we can use some of this too. Open Journey says, I just got the organizer you showed in your reels, Tiffany. Thanks for showing that. Yes, I went on to scrapbook.com yesterday and was trying to find some organizers to order, but I think really my problem is I don't have room to put more organizers. There we go. Work's done for me. So these are my little piles. You guys have seen these using the distress re-inkers that I dyed a bunch of papers. There's a reels video on my channel for that. If you just search LindseyDecor dyed paper, should come up. So this is a great, if you've got like a weekend where you don't have the brain capacity to do like a whole project, whole page, sit down and create some papers, and then they're ready to go when you're ready to create. Okay, I'm trying to decide. This side is more brown. I really like this granulation that's right here. See that? I like that. This side has more blues and some different textures. So I'm trying to decide what side that I want to use. I think this is the side I'm going to use. Yes, this stamp set is the beautiful stamp set from Open Journey. I will have this linked down below. These are individual stamps, so you can kind of create your own tile background, which is awesome. Let's see. I'm going to use Cocoina just because I have it right here. And when I'm applying paper to paper like this in like a background, I want it all nice and smooth. I don't use liquid adhesive, because the liquid adhesive, you're going to see where you've like did your little squiggles and things, especially because this is thinner, like just regular copy paper. So this completely coats, here we go, coats the paper. You could use a regular glue stick too, but this is just what I have right here. Coats the paper so it'll adhere nicely. I want the granulation, so we are going to not do this in a space-saving way. I've got tons of this paper. When I sat down, I just made dozens and dozens and dozens of these dyed papers, so I've got plenty. Thanks. Tiffany says both sides are amazing. I agree, but I think this... Shoot! Well, I'm sure some of you were like yelling at me on the camera what I just did. I stuck it down on the side that I wanted exposed, totally covering up every piece of that I wanted. That happens, guys. That happens. But you know, we're just gonna roll with it. Dang-nabbit. Maybe it'll be better. That side's a little bit lighter, so maybe it'll show my stamping that I'm doing better. Urgh. Okay. I'm gonna save this for my top layer. Okay, and why I made that decision. Thanks, Tiffany says, good things, both sides are great. Yes, thank you. I do like, there is some fun texture in this side. I'm not totally bummed, but it's not what I wanted to do. I want to incorporate some of this tissue paper because when I use it with matte gel medium, it's going, like the white will go away and it'll just leave me with the black, and it will add some fun texture to this. But I do want that to be in the background. However, I know that this matte gel medium or multimedia matte works. It's like a sealer, like it seals like decoupage kind of. And so it's going to create kind of a slick surface that's non-porous. So if I stamp over this, especially with distress sprays and distress inks, it's never going to soak in. It's going to wipe right off. If I've got areas where I've got paper exposed and areas with the glue, it will be crisper in some areas and wonky in others, and I don't want that. I want to not fight with that while I'm stamping. So we are going to do this, but I'm going to do it as my top layer instead. Are those collage papers? These are tissue paper from the beautiful kit from Open Journey. Oh, clear. I do have clear gesso. Let's do that, Tiffany. Can I stamp over this easy? Because you know what I'm talking. I mean, it is gritty and will absorb some things. Let's try it. Let's try it. I'm going to try it. So Tiffany's suggesting clear gesso. So the difference between the clear gesso, this is more like a page prep. Yes, but some distress spray colors get wonky. Okay, good to know. I'll keep that in mind. This acts more like a glue and like a sealer because it is smooth. I have several videos on my channel comparing these as page prep materials. I think there's like a Tip Tuesday page prep video where I show you how watercolors and stamping and different things react differently on gessos, matte gel medium, you know, some other products like that. So you can see. Can you buy those in the shop? Yes, you can buy these. I'm not sure if they're still in stock. I haven't had a chance. Maybe Ingrid can answer while she's here, but she may not know off the top of her head if these are still in the shop, but they were sold in the Open Journey shop. So this grittier is more like a page prep. You're adding to protect your paper. You could also use this to seal in some underlayers as you add layers over the top. So let's go ahead and try it. Let's try doing the collage papers first and then stamping over it, and maybe we'll have a really fun, happy kind of accident thing. I'm also looking at, there's a lot of like detail and busyness in this stamp. So as much as I absolutely love this one, and this would be the one I would reach for, Ingrid is saying, yes, these tissue papers are still in the shop. This is going to compete quite a bit with the fine details of these stamps. So I am going to choose something a little less fine detail, like maybe these circles. So we have some circles and squares. I kind of like that idea. I do like the paint swatches. Or the crosses. Let's go crosses. So the crosses have some more open white space in them. So that's gonna let the stamping show through a little bit more. It's not gonna have to conflict quite as much with the stamping. Now, I would probably tear this out, and I will tear it before I apply it, but I'm just gonna kind of, for the sake of the video and because I can't just lay it all out and be meticulous and take my time, I'm gonna cut this out first and then we'll pick it apart. Okay. So, little trick with tissue paper. If you want a rough edge but you want it controlled while you're doing it, use a paintbrush and some water, which I still have here. And I want to create, like, I don't want straight edges on here. Even though you can't see that necessarily because it blends right in, I will have a straight edge right here where the crosses end. I'll have a straight edge right here where the crosses end, and I don't want that. I want it to be very organic. So I'm just gonna do like a little wiggle with my paintbrush and some water, and then that lets me tear right along that wet area. And now I'm also getting the paper wet. I have that raw edge. I'm going to kind of tear out right here. And I probably would take my time and be a little slower, but I can see I've already got you guys here for about 2 hours, so I don't want to take up your entire Friday evening. Now, what's going to happen? These were done with Distress inks. With Distress inks are water soluble, so this water that I've accidentally touched may reactivate and add some more texture, and that's okay. All right, I'm going to also do this one kind of on the edge, I think. Let's see. I'm just kind of trying to visualize where I want the contrast of these with. These will be stamped in color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp these with Distress spray stains. So I am just going to do that. Okay. Now we can add this. Let me get my grungy brush. This is my grungy gesso brush that never gets clean the way that it should. And then I am going to try to find something to put that on. Ooh, that was a lot. How are we doing, guys? Any questions? I'll have a second to look at the, oof, this is stiff. I don't see any questions. That's good. Maybe you guys, maybe I'm babbling enough that you get what I'm doing. All right, so I am just going to kind of add this where I'm going to put that tissue paper. I'm going to add some down first. Lay that down on there. I'm okay with it being wrinkles because I like texture. If you don't like texture, then just be more careful how you lay it down. But when I come back over here, this is going to smooth things out a little bit. Once it dries, you won't be able to see as much of the tissue paper. I have not worked with these yet, so I am curious to see how this goes. I kind of think matte gel medium does seem to kind of like dissolve the tissue paper a little more easier than gesso does. I'm just gonna wrap this around the edge because I will probably come back and cover the back. In fact, I know I will, so I'm not worried about that. You can see I'm just trying to keep things going in, you know, back and forth. I'm not like going crazy rubbing in there because it will start to kind of disintegrate if you're not careful. This has even given us a little bit of that like gesso look without having to mess with the gesso. We'll see how it dries. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit up in this corner because I do like some balance. I typically work in threes and in a triangle shape so that your eye bounces around. That's just kind of stylistically how I do things, but not a hard and fast rule, as you can see in this case. Stick that there. So this is, again, just mixed media, building up layers. I could even, if I wasn't on a live and I wasn't trying to like get as much in here as I possibly could, I probably would go in and like scrape in some gesso over it and splatter some paint and things like that. So you'll probably see the finished pages on Instagram. Okay, so let me dry this. Actually, before I have issue, I'm going to go ahead and put this gesso over everything because I know that when I stamp with those stamps, they are going to react differently on the bare paper versus the gessoed paper. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the whole thing. That way I have some consistency. It is hot, guys. I turned off all my fans and stuff so that I wasn't competing with the noise, but anxiety of mess ups and timing and hot California. Okay, so we're gonna dry this. And you can see my glue, when I glued down, my background paper wasn't fully dry, so I'm getting a lot of wrinkling, but I'm okay with that. That's just the added texture to mixed media. I see that as a happy little accident. So if you're a perfectionist, mixed media probably is not going to be a form that you really ever enjoy because there's just a lot of experimentation, a lot of things out of your control, messiness, and then it's okay. You do not have to love mixed media. There are lots of things that I have tried because that was what was trendy in the community and I didn't like it. Gelatos, you guys know, I have it out for gelatos. I have tried to love them, but oh, I can't do it. Okay, so you can see it kind of melts away, but I am still seeing a little bit of white, but I actually like that because it reminds me of some of this like scrapey like gesso white paint things that you see going on in her pieces, so I'm okay with that. Oh yay! Oh Tiffany, I'm so glad I'm not the only one that hates gelatos. I always feel like it's like sacrilegious to say that because and I know that I've done so many videos on them. That was like the big trend when I first started Bible journaling. That's what everybody was using, and yes, they are cheaper than Neocolor 2 crayons, and I mean they are very different from Neocolor 2 crayons, but oh, I just can't. I think I know Ingrid uses gelatos and she does it very, very well. And maybe if I used them more as like a mixed media versus how the Bible journaling world kind of used them at first, trying to like blend backgrounds. I'm like, no, watercolor is so much easier. Okay, this is another nonstick matte over here. And I pre-selected spray colors to go with the beautiful kit. So I'm not gonna you guys could screenshot this and see what they are. This one's saltwater taffy, this one's antique linen, and this one's prize ribbon, but you can see all the other labels there. This was like really quick that I did last night, but I'm gonna stamp with these because I want loosey-goosey background versus really stark look of stamping with inks. Okay, Ingrid says she hasn't used them in a while. And honestly, I feel like if I was using them like Ingrid does in her mixed media, like this, and Ingrid, you might be able to, this might be a Neocolor 2 crayon. So getting these like really scribbly, fun little bits, you can do with gelatos, but gelatos have that really fat chapstick. Do you see? Look at that. Look at all the stuff, like moisture coming out of it because I don't use them. So now they're dry and crumbly. Ugh, I don't like these. And so it's harder to get that. I like that you have the finer tip with the Neocolor 2s, and I feel like they're just more user-friendly. They are easier to work with. I could never get them to work. Yeah, thank you so much, Missy. I am so glad that you're enjoying this. I am having a lot of fun. I missed you guys so much, and I missed creating. All right, so I'm looking at these. I know I want to use this little bit more detailed one to balance out the open space of my crosses, but I do want some like breather pieces. Okay, so let's start with that. This is going to be a little bit time consuming because I am going to stamp these individually, I think. I don't think I'm going to load them all up onto the stamp block together because I want there to be some variations. So let's start with this one. And I'm going to stamp with Distress Spray Stains. This could be an epic failure on the gesso. We will just have to see what happens. Okay. What kind of color palette do we want to see? Do we want to see it more pinks and greens? Or not pinks and greens, pinks and purples and blues. Let me kind of show you. I think it's easier to see in the devotional, actually, what I'm envisioning as my inspiration here. See how she's got these multicolored like tile blocks? Here we go. So this was the inspiration for this stamp set. So this is that stamp, and you can see it is detailed. Now we could go in and detail color this with Neocolor 2 crayons and stamp with Neocolor 2 crayons, but that's gonna no, Tiffany, you don't have to apologize. It is totally fine. It's good for us to learn together what works and doesn't work. You could go in with your Neocolors and like individually color in areas specifically. So my idea with the spray stains is we're going to spray out several colors, dip the stamp in those colors. So it's just going to be kind of a myriad of colors on the stamp. So it is going to look a little bit differently, but kind of give us a similar feel. But also keep in mind, like if we do pinks and yellows are going to make orange, blue and yellow will make green. So we will have some more colors than what we see in these tiles. But I think maybe we'll go that picked raspberry. Let's do salted ocean, and let's do yellow. We are going to get some oranges. We are going to get some purples and greens, but I think I'm going to be okay with that. I know, aren't these binders great, Lucy? I'm so glad somebody mentioned, I think it was Ingrid said something, and then one of the other gals said something about using a binder for these, and that was a good idea. Okay, so we're going to spray, this is mustard seed, and I'm just going to do a little bit because I'm not going to stamp a ton here because we're nearing the end here. Oh, sorry, Tiffany, broke your no-buy. Got some tissue paper and the word stickers. I know, the word stickers are super cool. Picked raspberry. And I'm not really like, I mean, I'm kind of thinking about where I spray it, but not really. I mean, I like, threes. So I've kind of got like yellow, yellow, pink, pink, like trying to kind of space things out. Okay. And then the more water we add, the lighter those colors are going to be, but also the like mushier things are going to be. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to get a separate piece of cardstock so you can kind of see before we go to this paper some options that we have. So I'm going to kind of stamp this down. I don't want my colors to mix too much. Okay, I think that's good. So if we go direct down, that's what we get. It's pretty mushy. I'm not opposed to that. But if we do a second generation stamp, it gets a little bit clearer. Third generation gets a little clearer. We can even go in and lightly spray this. It's going to activate some of that ink, and we can even get another reiteration. I actually think that is probably what I'm going to use right there, is that fourth generation. So if I use this on here, now it is going to be influenced by the grayish brown. It is going to change those colors a little bit, but can you see how bright and intense that's going to be over this? And to me, that isn't going to really work as a background. that's going to compete with anything that I put over the top of it, as opposed to something like this. It is going to be even lighter when I go on this darker paper, but it's going to be more of that background feature that then I can put words and you know, stamp phrases and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking as I look at this. And you get more detail than you get there. And you don't, I mean, you can use ink pads, you can use, you know, the Neocolor 2 crayons, things like that, but I have really enjoyed stamping with the Distress inks. It's been fun. So I'm going to go 1, 2, I'm going to spray this just a little bit, and I think that third one's going to actually be good. So I'm going to go, I'm going to keep things kind of more in this corner and up in this area and leave some blank breathing space. So I'm going to start kind of off the edge down here. You could get really fancy. Whoa, that was almost a disaster. And like draw yourself like a pencil grid if you wanted to, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, I'm going to load up multiple stamps so we can kind of start building our grid here. And you can see it is not a ton, right? Like you really can't tell quite what that is, but as we build this out, you'll be able to get that, and it's just going to be very loose and you know, loosey-goosey. Blue in there. This I probably tapped a little too much, but okay. See, there's a lot of purple in there. I'm still here, I swear, just fussy cutting eucalyptus. Nice. I thought about fussy cutting last night and it didn't happen. Okay, so that was a little bit light, but that's okay. Just kind of trial and error. Let's go a little bit more detailed piece. And as this kind of dries up, I can always add more water to it. I'm going to dip in and pick up some color. Let's go second with this one. There we go, because as I'm using up color, I'm also, you know, less color is getting onto my stamps. Okay, let's go. I'm going to go a little cattywampus. I want this to be, thanks, Ingrid. I really like how these are turning out. I like that, and Tiffany, the gesso is working just fine. In fact, I think it's absorbing just as much as plain paper would have absorbed, so it's working out. Okay, that's getting lighter. So I'm going to do, so because I went detailed, open, detailed. So if I offset it and put a detailed, open, I'm going to go detail at a cattywampus right here. Like that. And then we're going to go not so detailed underneath it. And we're just going to build up little tiles over there. I am kind of running out of the yellow, I think. Okay, might need to add some more yellow in here. How are we doing, guys? Are you okay to go over the timing a little bit? Because we are now longer than I initially told you guys we would be, but I feel like we're just kind of getting the hang of what we're doing on this one. All right. So that one's pretty juicy, so I may have to stamp that several times. So I am getting a little bit better with this particular technique with these more detailed stamps, just because it gives like more ink, more space for the ink to grab a hold of. So you're getting like a higher concentration. So it is looking a little bit better with those ones, but that's okay. We just want this to be kind of hint to that tile. And I am being kind of loosey-goosey messy with it because I know this is boring to watch somebody just stamp. Okay, so I've got some of that there. You know, it's not super It's not super detailed. And you may be thinking, well, that is a waste of time, not worth the effort, and it might not be for you. You know, you might want to go in with your Neocolor 2 crayons. I just knew that that was going to take me forever. Oh, Lisa says she's never stamped with sprays. So there you go. Perfect. You can see you get a very, very imperfect, loose look with the sprays. I love stamping with sprays because you get all of that variety in the color. I mean, this is, you know, this is cool how it all looks like that. So I love stamping with sprays. That's a fairly new, I've only been doing that for a little while now, and I love it. I'm so glad you got to join in, Lisa. It's been so fun to like get to see all my friends, kind of. I know Taryn and I were talking about a Zoom crafty session, and so ideally I would like to get to a point where we could do a Zoom session. That way we can like see each other and actually talk and not just be watching me do my thing. Did you see me almost mess that up? But I know there's a limit to how many people you can have in a Zoom, and so I'll have to look into that. So I'm not going to add too much more. It's just a little bit, just a hint of kind of those patterns. That is good for me. And then, honestly, a lot of this might get like covered up in gesso or like white splatters. I'm not sure yet. Ooh, let's do a butterfly. Let's watercolor a butterfly. Let's do that. Sorry guys, I know this is like for you guys to, now you do not have to waste this. You could grab a background paper and dip it in that and create a background. I, like Tiffany, have problems with just an abundance of backgrounds that don't get used up. Right, Tiffany? And then you don't know what to do. So I don't have a tendency to make background papers. Okay, let's find that butterfly stamp. The glue is peeling just a little bit. I can always go back in with my glue stick and re-adhere that once I'm done messing with all the white. White, after I'm done all the wet materials. Okay. Thinking, so again, this is going to be my margin. I'm kind of thinking like visualizing where I'm going to put it. Like that. I mean, it is going to be over the top of, let's do it down here. Okay, I need my big mama block. These are the bug stamps from Tim Holtz. Specimen from Tim Holtz. So I am going to watercolor this, so I do want to go in with a ink that is waterproof. So I'm going to go in with archival ink. Now let's look at this. I think that Ingrid tends to use more black versus brown. Yeah, black. So I think I will stamp in black. I'm trying to look for some inspiration, guys. Let's see. I don't know, I guess we could go brown, but we've got black on there. What do you guys think? Black or brown to stamp the butterfly? Keep in mind, butterfly is pretty, you know, there is quite a bit of whatever that color is that we are going to stamp. So I'm leaning towards either or, honestly. Okay, Yana says black. I think I'm gonna go, yep, Terrence says black. I think that's, I was feeling the same. That way it doesn't get too lost in things. Okay, so I'm gonna use black soot. I much prefer black soot over, I probably don't even have it anymore, the other black that Archival ink used to do. Taryn, what was the color of it? What was the name of it? It was something else. It's more of a blue black, and this is like a blacker black because it's based off of the jet black. There we go. Jet black is the other one, and it's more of a bluer black. I don't like that. I like that this is like a true black because it's based off of Tim Holtz's Black Soot Distress ink. So my stamp was clean. It was just stained. That's something that happens, especially with rubber stamps. They do get stained, and it looked like I likely had stamped it in Archival ink before. I don't have Archival stamp cleaner. Archival dries fast, so I'm going to be doing this while I'm talking. I don't have the Archival stamp cleaner. I'm naughty and clean my stamps with alcohol. I know they say not to, especially rubber. It dries it out, but you guys, my stuff has lasted just fine. Even your scrap paper could be used for something. Thanks, Lisa. Yes, it definitely can be. And I do save, oh, I like that. I like that. I do save my scraps. But like Tiffany and her backgrounds, I don't know why, because then I just have a whole bunch of scraps and I'm like, don't know what to do with. And if I use a scrap, like, I feel like I've got to explain how the scrap was made if I use it in a video, because somebody's going to ask, like, what did you do on that scrap? Which is fine, you guys. Like, I love answering questions, but then there are people who don't want 2-hour videos either. So kind of have to pick and choose what we want to do here. All right, so I'm going to dry this. And then we'll go in. I'm just going to add a little bit of color with watercolor. I'm not going to paint like the whole thing in, I don't think. I think we'll just kind of... no, let's paint it in detailed, because I think the detailed will help balance out the mushy, like, loosey-goosiness of the background. So let's pull out watercolors, and this will be the last thing. We'll wrap up with this, and then call it a day. So I'm going to use, here we go, that orange and the browns as my inspiration. So looking at my palette, another good reason to color swatch. Then it makes it easier for me to pick colors. Gosh, guys, who wants to come clean up my office space after today's live? It is crazy in here. All right. I'm going to go in with an orange. I at some point put something dirty in my cup because it's not clean water. Any questions real quick while I'm getting watercolors picked out? There we go. That's what I want. Questions. These are Daniel Smith watercolors that are in here. So I've used my waterproof ink, and I've heat set it so it shouldn't move around. I am going to dilute this color quite a bit because I don't know if you can see this, but it is, she is intense. Dang it, did it again. Okay, I think I'm actually going to use this orange over here. This is a little, not quite orange enough. Okay, let's kind of mix some orange. This is a Prima watercolor. Original blue is really pretty with this. The original blue for what? Okay, so I'm just gonna add, and now that I'm doing this, I'm thinking, so the colors that I used for the stamping are more like cooler colors. I'm not being super meticulous about this because I want it to be loosey-goosey, but are cooler colors, and this is a warmer color. So I probably would not have done that had I thought about that a little bit further, but that's okay. We can always go in and just dress this up. Happy accident. Okay, I really think the original blue. I'm not sure what original blue. And I'm not, like, I'm just dropping it in there, letting it, because it's on that gesso, it is going to kind of pool and dry differently than on, say, the mixed media paper or watercolor paper. So you'll just get a different look. So again, experiment with your papers even. I don't want these to be all red. Okay, let's go in with, because I didn't heat emboss this, I'm gonna dry my layers so that I can just work quick for your guys' sake. If you use embossing powder for your stamped image, like stamp it and then cover it in embossing powder like we did with the lungs on the other page, that creates like little walls, so then your color stays within those walls of the embossing, and it is a little bit easier to watercolor with that. If you're struggling with watercolor, that is kind of like a, what was the velvet, like the velvet paintings, you know, kind of works like that. Okay, I'm looking at my colors, trying to figure out what other colors I want on here. Still so many of you hanging out. Thanks for hanging out a little longer today. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that there was value in what we did today. I know it was a little bit like all over the place, rushed, you know, trying to cover as much as we can. I don't think they're all, the lives will be like a frantic craziness like this one is, but who knows? That's kind of just my life, guys. I'm in survival mode right now, let me tell you. This semester has turned out to be way more difficult than last semester, just like timing wise. It was creatively exhausting last semester because I was taking so many different art classes and they were all very different, and so having to create in different ways multiple times a day, every single day, was just exhausting. But this is more like core classes. I'm only taking one one art class, and it's just a lot of papers and silly little assignments they make you do to eat up time, and focusing more on fostering relationships with people, which has, like, I am not like a super social butterfly, so that's hard for me anyways. But this semester is really hard. I'm really trying to be intentional about making like deep, lasting relationships with people through this semester, in the hopes that like we can build up a relationship and then I can share the gospel. I mean, because if we come out swinging, bashing people over the head with the Bible, they're not going to take it well. And so there's something about building up relationships and being able to kind of slowly bring that in, because then they've built up respect for you before you start, you know, throwing that in there. And I have found that people are more apt to listen to me when they realize I'm not just, you know, the typical angry, bigoted Christian. They're like, wait, I know this person, and yes, I don't, you know, I don't like Christianity, or that's not what I want to do, but I'm going to listen to her because I value, you know, our relationship and that kind of thing. And so that's kind of been what I've been working on every day and praying every day, because my flesh doesn't want to do it. I'm going to be honest. Like, I'll get out of class and I'm like, I just want to go sit in my car and not talk to anybody and eat my lunch by myself. But I don't. I walk out onto the campus, I look for somebody sitting by themselves from one of my classes, and I go sit with them. And something about, I don't remember being like this when I went to college the first time. Like, I wasn't a social butterfly, but I definitely had like people I hung out with. I didn't like to be by myself, right? There was some insecurity about being by myself. But I feel like today's kids kind of like isolate themselves a little bit. Like I walk around the campus and it's just full of tables of people sitting by themselves. So I'll look for somebody that's in one of my classes, might not even know their names. I'm like, hey, can I sit and have lunch with you? And then just ask them, you know, what's your degree? What are you know, what's your job that you hope to do? Tell me about your family. Do you have family that lives here nearby? Like, you know, what are your hobbies? And just start very, you know, kind of like that, building up relationships. And then, you know, it inevitably, like a friend will come by and use all kinds of profanity and vulgar or say something crazy or be mean to somebody else. There's a lot of bullying that happens. And so I think it does help them older. You know, I'm like the mom voice of the campus. And so I can kind of like, hey, now, we're not going to act like that. And, you know, or if I have a differing opinion about something, it's like, well, I believe, because I believe that God is truth and that God created us with a purpose and that we were created in God's image, and that God does not make mistakes. This is what I believe. And I've had some really, really, really interesting conversations, very like fruitful conversations that have just been very, very inspiring. Okay, while I'm talking about that, I've just been dabbing color. I am covering up my stamping just a little bit because I didn't like how it wasn't stark black. Because I'm stamping on this colored background and with the gesso, it was more of like a grayish stamping. So I'm just going in and kind of loosely adding some colors. Again, I wouldn't normally put this like bright pink with this orange. That's clashing. Not my jam, but we will roll with it. Any questions while I'm painting? Any encouragement? Like, have you been in those situations? Are you somebody that had to like go back on the campus, and or are you more apt to keep your head down? My whole family just keeps telling me like, just keep your head down, Lindsey, just be quiet, go to class, don't cause a ruckus. Have you met Christians on campus? Yes and no. I have met people who identify as Christians, but the fruit definitely isn't there. So I don't know their heart. I don't know if they're truly saved, but just based off of what they're saying or how they're acting, or you know, as we get into deeper theology discussions, I can tell that there is not really a true biblical knowledge there. It's kind of more like cultural Christians. We have a very large demographic of Catholics here in our area, but they are like Christmas, Easter Catholics, you know, like the ones that just go 2 times a year. They're Catholics because culturally that's what they grew up in like South America and Mexico. So there is quite a bit of that. And what I see often with that is that their parents are more apt to going to their Catholic church frequently, but like the kids have rebelled, and you know, because those families in that culture typically is a little bit stricter with their kids, and so once they get to college, it's like a free-for-all, got to get out from underneath their rule, and they kind of go crazy. So I've seen a lot of that. At the stage of life you're in, my husband and I refer to as the hanging on years. Yes, it does feel like the hanging on years. It is easier because my kids are a little bit older. So I feel like that does help. I had a fantastic conversation, and I feel like I can be a little bit more open here on YouTube. So here's the dilemma I run into. Now that I'm in my 2nd semester, there's a lot of students, especially in the art program, because we're all about sharing our social media, right? And sharing our art and what we're doing. And so my art's on social media. So now I have a lot of students that are following me on my social media, and teachers following me on my social media. And so I just try to be sensitive to that, you know, that I'm not wanting to call out anybody in particular, not be too specific about things that I'm saying. You know, I'm not, and I don't share their stories as like looking down my nose at them. It's to encourage and inspire you guys and the believers that are here, and to give you maybe some inspiration for how to interact with certain people, or encouragement that I'm struggling. So like if you're struggling, I totally can understand that. I'm sitting here trying to think what color I want these little dots right here. Every day is a mission field when you're walking with Jesus. Absolutely. Kimberly, you're sad you missed the beginning. Don't worry. I will save this as a replay. I will repost it. I'm going to try to repost it with the comments so that you can see the comments. Even if people don't agree with you, they will remember your testimony, says Ingrid. Yes, it might not work right away. It might work in years from now. Yes, I completely agree. And I had that happen this last week. So there was a kid, I overheard him, talking loudly about, you know, he's not a believer, he's an atheist. He grew up in a Christian home. His mom is Christian. Talks very disparagingly about Christians, like it's over the top. And so we had a conversation the other day, and it came about after class, because the class kind of touched on some things that led to evolution, which keeps coming up because of the early year history classes that I'm taking. You know, they all believe that we came out of monkeys and fish grew legs and walked out of the water. No, that's not what happened. So we were having this conversation, and so he was trying to engage with the people around him, asking what they believed, and nobody really would engage with him. And so he went on to say that, you know, I believe in evolution. I don't believe that, you know, God is in control, whatever. So I looked at him and I said, so, you know, I think he asked me like what I believed or what my thoughts were on that conversation. And I said, you know, think about it. If you put all the pieces of a car into a box, and you shook that box and you shook that box and you shook that box, how long do you think you'd have to shake that box until a fully functioning car would drive out of that box? And he kind of looked at me, he's like, I don't get it. What do you mean? I'm like, well, let's just take everything off the table. Let's say you had a fully functioning car. You took all the pieces apart, only put those pieces in the box, and you shook that box, and you shook that box, and you shook that box. Would that car ever assemble itself and drive out of that box with all of the DVD players, air conditioning, auto locks, you know, all the high-tech things? He's like, well, no. I was like, okay. So do you think, let's extrapolate that into the giant universe, with not just the stuff that you're saying is required to start the earth, but all kinds of excess stuff that doesn't apply also. And you're saying all of that came together at the perfect moment in an explosion that made the planet, with you all the way down to your most intimate details. You believe that that's more likely than somebody coming along, taking that box of car parts and assembling that car part. Somebody with intelligent design, a creator, comes along and puts together that car and makes that car run. And he looked at me and he goes, wow, I never thought about it that way. And I mean, I could see on his face, like in his brain, just wrestling with this, like changing his way of thinking about it. So then he says to me, well, I think what happened was just that Adam and Eve was a big giant screw up, and so God just gave them the earth, and we started evolving out of fish. I was like, okay, well, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I said, but you are right that, you know, let me flip the camera, because that way you're not just looking at my hands while I clean up. Let me do it this way. I said, you know, you're right. Adam and Eve was a big, they screwed up majorly, right? This is why we have wars and cancer and death and all of these horrible things, is because of Adam and Eve and their disobedience to God. You are very right. And so we get to live life because of that. And thankfully, God gives us a way out of that. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, and this particular kid is difficult to carry conversation with. And like, I can't get like I can't carry on what I'm wanting to say without him, like, you know, getting in there. So he goes, well, he's like, kind of stops for a second. And at this point, we're like in between classes. So there's our classes leaving and other classes coming in. And we probably have like half a dozen kids sitting around us. And I mean, I am just full volume, just laying this out. He looks at me and goes, you know what? I think what it comes down to is I am terrified of God. And like, I looked at him and I said, you should be terrified. I'm terrified. Our God is a wrathful, angry, jealous God that can't be anywhere near sin. You are right. We should be terrified of him. But thankfully, with all of that, he's also a loving, grace-filled, compassionate God that gives us a way out of our sin. And at that moment, it was like the perfect moment to lay out the gospel, right? To be like, okay, so he sent Jesus, and Jesus took on the wrath that was deserved for us and made a way for us to have relationship with again. We just have to put our trust in him. But unfortunately, he obviously was done with the conversation. And so he was very flustered. So he just gathers up his stuff and just walks out the classroom, like just leaves it. And you guys, I had the biggest sinking feeling of just, this was an opportunity. This is an opportunity to give the gospel, and I didn't get it in there. But then, boy, did God remind me, it's not me. It's not us. We are not able to save people at all. That is not in it for us. We just get to plant little seeds. We get to come along in little moments and share God in the way that we can. And if God is ultimately going to save that kid, he will make a way for that to happen. And this may be the only time, any interaction that I'd be able to have with him in that aspect. So I'm walking out of class and I am just praying the whole time I'm walking to my car, please, 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 God, just send somebody else to him to finish up that conversation, because I didn't get to give him the good news. I only got to give him, kind of the explanation of how things started and the scariness of God, but didn't get to give him the good news. But I have faith and confidence that God will bring that to him, and it may be somebody totally different. And so as we continue with our interactions, because we have classes together, it's just continuing to love on him and continuing to be nice. And guys, this has been such a good, humbling experience for me too, because I'm quick to anger. I'm sassy. I'm sarcastic. I can think the worst of people sometimes. I mean, I'm being brutally honest with you. I am not perfect. I have so many flaws and faults that God is constantly trying to work on me in. And so as I have these interactions, my first action when all these people are talking disparagingly about Christianity, and it happens every single day on that campus, I mean, it just blows me away, because if I said the same things about somebody's race or their faith or their identity or whatever it is, I'd be thrown off the campus. There would be no tolerance for that. But you can, which we know, right? We know we're going to be persecuted, right? And so just, it's been a good exercise for me too, to not just fly off the handle and just respond in snark or anger, because I do get angry. I get so angry when people are blaspheming the God that I love and that saved my life from an eternity in hell. It just kills me to hear them just, unbelievable, wretched, horrible things that I have heard over the last 2 semesters. I mean, stuff I can't even say on a video because my video would be shut down by YouTube. I mean, just absolutely explicit, horrible things. As we were going over, Mary and her becoming, pregnant with Jesus. And so I'm sure you can only imagine things around that in our hypersexualized, culture right now, the things that are said. And so I want to be angry. I want to just completely ignore those people, walk away, say mean things, horrible things. But gosh, has God just broken my heart for these people. I mean, gosh, I don't want to cry for all these people on the internet, but just truly, truly breaks my heart, because I see these kids and so many of them have so many good qualities and have just had crappy hands dealt to them in their lives. I mean, we live in an area that's very impoverished. We have a lot of immigrants in our area. And so there is a lot of just trauma and horrible. I mean, we are on like the sex trafficking corridor of California. I mean, there is just horrible things that happen in the area that we're in. And so I know that these kids, not all of them, but many of them have just had very difficult lives. And so I can see how it's easy to just go, God doesn't see me. Why am I going through this, right? Because I'm sure many of us as Christians have felt that before we became Christians, right? God has forgotten me. I have all this heartache and hurt in my life. So what kind of good God would allow this to happen to me? And, all of that you have to work through. And so it's just been really good for me to see people as people. And that's why I want to talk about it more, because I know especially in the online space, you know, especially as we're amping up for another election period, there's a lot of conservative Christian, I have some questions about some of them. I hate to do that because I hate when people say that about me, you know, Christian, but their behavior isn't fruitful. And when they are talking disparagingly about certain people groups, it's okay to acknowledge that it's sin behavior. It's okay to speak truth and be truthful, but we can't be hateful, and we need to be careful about how we talk about those people and name calling and things that we reshare. And I trust me, you guys, this is something I've had to grow in. There has been years I have shared all the things because that's what the social media Christian influencers were sharing about the culture wars at the moment. And it's just like, oh, look at this person, it's so awful, or oh, this troll, or this whatever. And it's like, they are a person created in the image of God. They're created in the image of God, and they are loved by God, and we need to love them. And so does that mean that I condone what they're doing? No way. I mean, and I've got some challenging things I'm working through with that right now, with some interactions I'm having. And I'm realizing that it is something different about getting out in the world and meeting people face to face. The internet just creates this screen that makes it so that, and we've seen it, right? We've seen it. People say hateful things to us because it's easy behind the keyboard. Christians do the same thing to unsaved people. Brutal honesty right there. There are some things I have seen in this space and in the Christian online space that just makes me cringe. Like, of course that person's never gonna want to believe in God if this is how Christians are talking about them. Like, it's unbelievable. And that wasn't meant to be a tangent, a rant, a make you feel bad kind of thing. I'm gonna look at some of these questions here real quick. Planted a seed. Yes, that's exactly how I'm having to like coach myself through it. Plant the seeds. Plant the seeds. It's not you. It's what the kid, you said what the kid couldn't handle at that moment. Absolutely. Saying something that made him think, you know, not just using the standard, you know, that reference to the car in the box. I think I first heard that from my dad, but I've heard it from several other people, and my kids have even admitted that's kind of one of the things that really helped them as they were aging in this world of evolution being taught in school and things like that. Really made them stop and go, well, no, that makes absolutely no sense that you could shake up a box of parts and the car would drive out. So just using things like that just plants the seeds, gets them start to thinking about things. We must be close to each other because we're on the human trafficking corridor as well. Kimberly, probably. So Central California area for sure. And I know our sheriff, oh, I'm so thankful for him. We are in we're in California. So, but we have a very conservative, God-fearing sheriff. So that helps quite a bit. The sex trafficking task force and things like that, he's very, very involved in. Preach the gospel without words. 100% Victoria. Yes, preach the gospel without words. Now, I do want to add to that because you cannot just preach it with words, right? I can't remember the scripture offhand, but it's about hearing the word is what leads you to saving faith or something along those lines. So I do truly believe that you need to hear it. We can influence people. We can get them to thinking. I consider our actions a seed. I don't think we can just stop there though. And I think that comes from a place of comfort. I think that we don't like to be uncomfortable of using our words and pressing against people verbally because they will likely verbally speak out against us. But by preaching the gospel through our actions, for me, I see that as kind of laying the groundwork before I go in with the words of the gospel. Because when I come in with the gospel, they're like, wait a second, I liked her. She's always been nice. She's always been helpful. She, sits with me at lunch, or she helps me with an assignment, or, I've got some notes I'm typing up for a student that's having difficulty getting the notes taken. And so I'm like, that's going to be my little peace offering. Like, here, I did some notes for you. So, just all of those actions that build up, that we are not the hateful, bigoted, Westboro Baptist Christians, right? Like that's not, I don't want people to have that image in their head as what all Christians are like. And so, yes, I very much, that's my reminder every day is my actions. He will ponder what you said and God ordained what you said. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, one of my classes, we have a breathing exercise, so we have to sit and like it's supposed to be like a meditation thing. So you guys know how I feel about that. Want no part of that. And so because it's coming from a secular point of view or whatever. And so it's supposed to be hands on your desk, right? Eyes closed. I'm like praying every day in that class. I spend that entire, I think it's a minute, fiercely praying. God, give me the words. Not just the wisdom, not just the strength. Give me the words, because in this world where free speech is being targeted constantly and anything that you say is offensive, it's like walking through a minefield trying to have conversations. And so I very much just pray, God, just take over my mouth. Take it over and just let it come out, because I can't do it on my own. Just can't. All right, feel good in that he stayed and conversed with you for as long as he did. I'm sure you left him with lots of food for thought. You did amazing. I had goosebumps. Thank you. It's all God. It wasn't me. It was all God, because I am not brave enough to do that. What do you think of godly meditation, like scripture that has to be right? Just curious. I'm okay with meditation that is biblical and godly. I'm not okay with the meditation of Eastern practices that teach us to empty our mind. I don't think that that is biblical. So anything that's telling you to empty your mind leaves room for Satan to come in. I mean, I don't know if that's a biblical statement, but I mean, I don't agree with that. Now, as far as meditating in the sense of focusing and letting that idea ruminate in your mind, if you're ruminating so maybe ruminating is probably my better than meditation, but really sitting in thought and prayer over a scripture or a lesson or something God's given you, yes, I think that's fine. But I think that there's this fine line between the Eastern kind of mentality and yoga mentality of emptying your mind. I don't believe that that is a biblical teaching. So, and you're free to disagree with me, but that's something that I have spent quite a bit of time looking at, because I have said some of those things. I have practiced yoga in the past, and now feel convicted that I want nothing to do with that. That is not something I want to partake in, and I don't agree with that idea of meditation. So I hope that clears that up. Okay, we are almost to 4 o'clock. So we went in about 45 minutes longer than what I told you guys it was going to be, but that's okay. I'm glad that we had that. I know we said we weren't going to be about Bible lessons and talking, and but God's in control. God obviously felt like that was the moment to share that with you guys. And I don't share it as like ooh, look at me, look at how great I am out there. Because trust me, I am failing every stinking day. Like there are so many missed opportunities I've had that I'm just like, God, I don't want to do it today. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm putting my foot down. I don't want to go talk to that person. I just want to sit in my car and eat my lunch by myself today. And I do it. And then I have to repent for it, because I know that that's not what he has me there for. I've had lots of questions about why I'm continuing my degree at this point, because I have expressed how utterly frustrated I am with this whole experience. I'm not going to that college for my degree any longer. The degree will be a byproduct of it. I am going there as a mission field. My husband and I have talked about mission work before. We would love to do mission work. He would love to go overseas and do mission work. We just had some of our church members come back from a mission trip. It is really inspiring to hear what they said, but this has made me realize there is a giant mission field right here. In most of your guys' cities, it's a giant field. When we had our club rush a couple weeks ago, I'm sure you can imagine all the different clubs there were. Not one single Christian club. Not one. And so I feel like God is nudging me. I've been nudged that maybe to be the one to step out and initiate that. But I'm going to be honest, I'm terrified. I am terrified that I will be eaten alive by those students if I step out and try to start a Christian club. Also a little hesitant because technically next semester is supposed to be my last semester. So I don't want to just like start something and then leave it after a semester. But who knows? I mean, God's in control. If God intends for that to maintain and to stay in there, then of course he will, keep it up and bring the people needed in there. And I do believe there are other Christians on campus. I've interacted with a couple that are scared that don't want to share that they're Christians, don't want to act like Christians, don't, you know, because there's just so much hostility, so much ostracization that comes with that. And so maybe having a club, power in numbers, right? You feel a little safer when there's more than one of you. Like, who knows? So if you guys could be praying for that, that's something I could probably work on over this next semester and then be part of in the Club Rush next semester. I'm still praying about it. It's sometimes I think of great ideas and I rush into it and it wasn't something that God had planned for me and it just kind of falls apart. So I just want to make sure that I am doing things within His will and His purpose, and it's not me. It's not me. It's all Him 100%. I've gotten to see His hand in so many different ways throughout this whole process. I mean, just miraculous ways, not even just through the college experience, but you know, this is a huge commitment, time commitment. I've had to scale back what I do for you guys, which means a scale back in income for me. And so my husband took a pay cut with his new job. And so it was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Like, we were barely surviving before. And now we run in the red every month, and God has provided every single month in just miraculous ways. And that just keeps confirming for me, okay, I can keep going to school. I have peace that I will have food and my bills are paid and I can focus on this. I'm not trying. And that's also why I've scaled back. I have comfort in knowing I could pour my entire effort into what I'm doing on that college campus versus trying to juggle and work full-time here online with you guys. So I hope that you understand. I really would appreciate your prayers. I'm excited to come at the end of all this and hopefully share all kinds of praise reports with you guys, not my glory, but for God's glory, and just showing how He can use such a broken, imperfect person on a campus like that. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. I just want to make sure there weren't any other questions. Thank you guys. Thanks. Yes, I definitely appreciate the prayers. So tentatively, let's go ahead and plan on another live, not next Friday, but the Friday after. I will put graphics up. I'll put the question boxes up, all that goodness. I'll try to have the little reserve spot on YouTube up sooner than today. Maybe I'll do that this weekend. So you'll be able to go on my YouTube and be able to see when the lives are scheduled for. And hopefully we'll get to have some more fun. So thank you guys so much. Look, over 50 of you guys hung out this whole time. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your lives and your family to come hang out with me. I hope that it was fruitful and helpful. I'm going to try to go ahead and save this. We're going to see what happens when I stop the video. I'm going to try to save it and upload it so you guys can catch the replay if you want to do that. And I'll try to link the products. There's a big pile of mess here. So if I miss something, just send me a note and let me know. So thank you guys so much. Bless you. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend.